Chapter 150, Abundance in the Basin and Bowl, Second Tier in Sight. Aside from traveling, he's really not up to par in other areas. Like earlier, when they encountered danger, he had to use talismans to protect the Iron Feather Eagle. If there was a bit more commotion, the Iron Feather Eagle would get scared and go out of control. If they were being pursued, relying on the Iron Feather Eagle, it would be hard to get away. If I could do a system draw and get a flying pet beast, that problem would be solved directly, Lu Chongqing thought to himself. In his opinion, if he could draw a flying pet beast from the system, that would be ideal. After all, any pet obtained from the system draw was likely to be of heavenly grade bloodline. However, even if I drew a flying pet beast, if it's a cub, it wouldn't be easy to raise. Moreover, a pet beast that's too rare and unusual would be too conspicuous if ridden in public, and could easily be remembered by others. Lu Chongqing thought of the 9 netherhound he had been raising at home and slightly shook his head. He felt that without sufficient strength, even owning a rare pet beast wasn't advisable to take out casually. Like the 9 netherhound he had been keeping at the Lu family, which had been raised for nearly 4 years and was beginning to show its extraordinary nature. He estimated that in another 3 to 5 years, it would be obvious at a glance that it was not an ordinary demon beast and that its bloodline grade was high. By then, they'll just have to keep the 9 netherhound in the spiritual pet bag and carry it with me, or, as I considered before, find a mountain range where I can let it grow up on its own, Lu Chongqing mused. If released into the wild, his only concern was that the 9 netherhound might encounter danger. After all, the 9 netherhound currently only had the strength of an early first-grade demon beast. And that's not very strong. Thinking of the second-rank beast taming inheritance he had just acquired, Lu Chongqing took out the jade slip to review its content. To see if there were any methods that could help the 9 netherhound grow. The purple gold rat, a high-rank demon beast with a metallic bloodline, is to be typically fed spiritual materials and golden spirit rice in a ratio of 7:3 for its spirit food. When advancing to second rank, 10 gene of metal ore and 1 demon rat's core. The azure scale snake, a high-rank demon beast, snake eggs to be soaked in a mixture of azure jade liquid, spiritual wood, and first-grade spiritual water to create spiritual liquid, placed in a nest made of cold properties for hatching, taking 3 months to hatch. With daily feeding, the fiery flame bird, a high-rank demon beast. This jade slip inheritance contained many pieces of information about various demon beasts. It described how to cultivate, tame, and train them into spiritual pets, allowing them to grow rapidly. At the end of the jade slip, there was also a section on beast taming techniques. It allowed one to communicate with spiritual pets and impress upon them a master-servant contract. Although this inheritance doesn't have specific rearing methods for the 9 netherhound, based on the cultivation methods for pet beasts detailed here, it boils down to the traditional wisdom: 3 parts training, 7 parts nutrition. It's essentially about how to ensure the least amount of money is spent for the best possible growth of a spiritual beast during its cultivation. After reading the content of the jade slip, Lu Chongqing felt somewhat disappointed. He didn't seek the beast taming inheritance in order to become a beast tamer himself. Taming beasts couldn't compare with the system's draws. He simply wanted to see if such an inheritance would be helpful in raising the 9 netherhound. But having read it and arrived at such a conclusion, he naturally felt some disappointment. Even without the jade slip, he knew that if the 9 netherhound were to eat demon beast meat at every meal, it would certainly grow faster than it was now. Maybe I really should just release the 9 netherhound into the wild, or, I could try releasing it for a while to see what the results are like. Otherwise, growing at this pace day by day, it's just too slow. Thinking of his estimate that the 9 netherhound would take 100 years to grow to a second-rank demon beast, Lu Chongqing was leaning more towards releasing it. After all, the worst outcome of releasing it would just be losing the pet. That's not entirely unacceptable, right? Once I have second-rank talismans and a second-rank puppet, I can start looking for a suitable place to release the 9 netherhound. Then I'll also observe the 9 netherhound survival skills, Lu Chongqing resolved inwardly. A day later, when nearing 9 Dragons Market, Lu Chongqing switched from the Iron Feather Eagle to a flying artifact. Then in disguise, he flew on the flying artifact into Nine Dragons Marketplace, procured a temporary identity card, and entered the marketplace. He entered the city in this guise, naturally to facilitate selling off his spoils. Without even thinking about it, the loot obtained from the Ko family's 5 fiends was not the sort of thing to display openly. It might attract the attention of interested parties. So, prudence was crucial. Mainly, Lu Chongsheng was thinking of quickly selling the items for spirit stones. Otherwise, in a few years or even over a decade, slowly disposing of the items in small batches would be the most secure method. However, with spirit stones in hand, he would be able to inscribe second-rank talismans and craft second-rank puppets. Having 2 more cards up his sleeve, he felt his capacity to withstand risks would significantly increase, and thus considered that a little risk was acceptable. After entering the city, Lu Chongsheng made his way to a larger magical artifact shop with practiced ease. Esteemed fellow Daoist, what kind of magical artifact would you like to purchase? A shapely female shop assistant approached him. Is your shopkeeper here? I have second-hand magical artifacts I'd like to sell, Lu Chongsheng said expressionlessly. Not long after, the shopkeeper came over beaming with a smile, greeting him, to which Lu Chongsheng presented the magical artifacts he intended to sell. He didn't bring out all the artifacts at once, but only the Black Cloud artifact, 2 high-quality artifacts, and the damaged magical robe and boots. Fellow Daoist, your top-quality artifact is quite severely damaged, not just on the exterior but also with problems in the internal restrictions, so our shop can only offer you 820 spirit stones. Chapter 151, Abundance in the Basin and Bowl, second rank in sight. For these 2 superior magic artifacts, the quality is decent, though there's some wear and tear. Our shop can offer 760 spirit stones, as for these magical robes and boots. To be honest, the damage is quite severe, only fit for scrap material recovery. Let's say 260 spirit stones for all. The shopkeeper could tell that these magic artifacts were obviously ill-gotten goods and directly offered a low price. A flat rate, 2,200 spirit stones, Lu Chongsheng, even in his eagerness to sell, wouldn't just accept whatever price was given. Fellow Daoist, this price is really a bit steep, to be honest, these items of yours, they probably didn't come from a good place. If our shop were to sell them, we would need to completely refurbish them. The shopkeeper made a difficult face as he spoke. I take my leave. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongsheng made a move to leave immediately. 2,000 spirit stones, fellow Daoist, that's the highest price our shop can offer. Such magic artifacts aren't easy to sell in other shops either. They won't fetch a high price, the shopkeeper stepped forward to persuade him. Alright, let's go with your price. Lu Chongsheng understood this logic well, feeling that the price was acceptable, he didn't dawdle. Subsequently, the 2 completed the transaction. Just after Lu Chongsheng left, the shopkeeper narrowed his eyes and stroked his chin, saying, this black blood cloud should be the magic artifact of the eldest of the Ko clan's 5 fierce, and now it has ended up in this person's hands. Could it be? But what does that have to do with me? If the Ko clan's 5 fierce have all fallen at this person's hands, I'm afraid only a foundation-building great cultivator could take him down. However, this information might be worth quite a bit of money. Smiling, the shopkeeper shook his head and leisurely returned upstairs. After leaving the shop, Lu Chongsheng immediately found an inn, where he checked the spirit stones had just acquired. As expected, when there's a bit more profit involved, there will be this kind of backstabbing. Lu Chongsheng watched as faint black smoke appeared from 3 spirit stones under the effect of a high-grade purification talisman. They were clearly tampered with. That was only what the purification talisman detected, he didn't know if there were any other problems. However, Lu Chongsheng wasn't concerned. He changed his appearance, took on a different outfit, and went straight to the Qingyun Commerce Guild. As long as he spent all these spirit stones, he wouldn't need to worry about any issues. What would the fellow Daoist like to see? May I make some recommendations? As soon as Lu Chongsheng walked into the Qingyun Commerce Guild, a beautiful female cultivator in a Cheongsam came up, her smile beaming as she greeted him. "I need a supreme talisman pen for magic artifacts," Lu Chongsheng said directly. Upon hearing this, the female cultivator paused, then her eyes lit up and her smile grew even wider. "Please take a seat, fellow Daoist." She promptly invited Lu Chongsheng to sit down, pouring him some tea. Then she knelt beside him, her Cheongsam tight, outlining her graceful figure. "For convenience, our guild has illustrated some precious magic artifacts in a catalog, making it easy for distinguished customers like yourself to view, understand, and compare selections. If you see something you like, I will bring the actual item for you. Take a look at this Qihui talisman pen. It's the best-selling supreme talisman pen at our Qingyun Commerce Guild." The Cheongsam-clad female cultivator took out an antique jade scroll, turned to the page with talisman pens, and pointed to one of the pens. A three-dimensional image of a red talisman pen appeared on the jade scroll. There was also accompanying introduction information. Qihui talisman pen. The pen tip is made from the neck fur of a second-rank azure-eyed golden lion demon beast, and the pen shaft is forged from a mixture of sky blue wood and qi gold. Lu Chongsheng nodded slightly. He had been to the Qingyun Commerce Guild before. He knew that the guild had grown large and strong not just because it was backed by the Qingyun sect. In terms of shopping experience, service, and the quality of the products, they really did a great job. He glanced at the price of the talisman pen. 1,600 spirit stones. He couldn't help but be astonished. Compared to when he had previously gotten a middle-grade magic artifact pen at the spiritual talisman shop of the Lu family for only 70% of the original price at cost, the profit margin at the Qingyun Commerce Guild was likely even higher. But it couldn't be helped, there were no supreme talisman pens for magic artifacts at the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Even if there were supreme talisman pens for sale, it wouldn't be right for him to buy them from his own family's shop. As expensive as it is, after all, this thing will last a long time, and he'll eventually make the money back. Lu Chongsheng sighed softly in his heart. He knew this wasn't an expense he could avoid. Going to other shops might save him a little money, but it would waste time and be a hassle, with no guarantee they'd have the product in stock. He flipped through the jade scroll, looking at a few other supreme talisman pens. The cheapest is 1,400 spirit stones, and the most expensive is 2,000 spirit stones. Immediately, Lu Chongsheng asked the female cultivator to bring over 5 different supreme talisman pens for him to examine. After briefly playing with them, Lu Chongsheng still chose the red glow talisman pen valued at 1,600 spirit stones. "You should also have the materials for making second-rank talismans here, right?" Lu Chongsheng continued to inquire. Now that he had spirit stones, he naturally wanted to buy everything in one go. "Of course, we do. In this marketplace, whatever the fellow Daoist desires, we at Qingyun Commerce Guild have it for sale. If we at Qingyun Commerce Guild don't have it, then it certainly won't be found anywhere else," the female cultivator said with a smile, her tone full of confidence. She then took out a jade scroll, which listed various materials for sale for second-rank talismans. The materials for second-rank talismans are much more complicated than those for first-rank talismans. To draw different talismans, you also need corresponding attribute demon beast furs and spiritual materials made into talisman paper and spirit ink. Otherwise, it would affect the talisman completion rate. Lu Chongsheng looked at the second-rank materials listed in the jade scroll. The choices weren't particularly numerous. The materials were sold in sets of 10. Lu Chongsheng bought 30 sets. The total cost was 780 spirit stones. That meant, on average, the production cost per second-rank talisman was 26 spirit stones. This didn't even include the cost of wear and tear on the talisman pens. But there was no other way. Second-rank talisman materials were relatively rare, hard to buy elsewhere, and collecting them on his own was troublesome. If he wanted convenience and speed, he could only purchase them at a higher price from the Qingyun Commerce Guild. However, by buying here, at least there were guarantees, and he wouldn't encounter any issues. Fellow Daoist, the total comes to 2,380 spirit stones, said the female cultivator in a Cheongsam, still smiling. After speaking, she paused for a moment, her voice sweetened as she said, as the fellow Daoist is purchasing second-rank talisman materials, it seems you also have some achievements in the talisman path. Would the fellow Daoist be interested in becoming a guest elder of our Qingyun Commerce Guild? If you are willing to become a guest elder, then in the future, all items you purchase from our Qingyun Commerce Guild will be offered at an internal price. Moreover, should the fellow Daoist need any materials, our Qingyun Commerce Guild can also assist in collecting them. The Cheongsam-clad female cultivator spoke in a sweet voice. Oh. When Lu Chongsheng heard this, he raised an eyebrow and asked, "May I know what the exact standards for having some achievements are you referring to?" In terms of talisman making, the fellow Daoist would need to be able to consistently draw supreme first-grade talismans, the female cultivator in the Cheongsam replied with a smile. "May I know the benefits of this guest elder position?" Lu Chongsheng continued to inquire. "If the fellow Daoist is interested, I can invite the manager to discuss the details with you," the female cultivator with sparkling eyes said. "There's no need for a detailed discussion, I was just casually asking," Lu Chongsheng said, waving his hand dismissively. "Although I can draw supreme talismans at the moment, it is quite a struggle. I bought the second-rank materials just to see if they might help me stabilize the drawing of supreme talismans." Lu Chongsheng said this outright. He was currently in disguise, how could he possibly become a guest elder at the Qingyun Commerce Guild? To become a guest elder here, he would undoubtedly have to verify his identity. Once his identity was checked and verified, his skills as a top-level first-grade talisman master would be difficult to explain. "Alright, if the fellow Daoist ever becomes interested, we at the Qingyun Commerce Guild are always welcoming," the female cultivator in the Cheongsam replied, unbothered and still smiling. "Okay." Straight away, Lu Chongsheng paid the spirit stones, picked up his talisman pen and materials, and walked out of the Qingyun Commerce Guild. Sigh, money comes quickly, but it goes just as fast. Lu Chongsheng thought about his expenditure and felt a twinge of pain in his heart. He had never used so much money before. Back in the day, when he first arrived at the Lu family, he only received 2 spirit stones per month. Now in one spending spree, more than 2,000 spirit stones were gone, which was the equivalent of 100 years' earnings in the past. Next, I'll deal with the remaining magic artifacts and materials and see if I can purchase enough to construct a second-rank puppet. Lu Chongsheng exhaled softly and repeated the actions he had just been doing, bustling without a break. He sold all the magic artifacts he had gathered, unnecessary elixir medicines, as well as materials to shops for a low price. Then, having obtained the money, he directly went back to spend it at the Qingyun Commerce Guild, buying the materials he needed. P.S. I went to bed late last night and got up early, which made me groggy all morning. After resting in the afternoon, I finally felt somewhat better, but still a bit of a headache. There won't be a second chapter today, apologies. Chapter 152, It's time for the child to practice martial arts _1 Lu Chongsheng walked out of Myriad Treasures Pavilion and looked at the bustling street, exhaling lightly. After a busy half a day, he had finally cleared out all the items from the Ko family's 5 felons. In total, he had sold 4,110 spirit stones. It was more or less what he had estimated at the time. If he had also sold all the sundry things he had retained for himself, such as the supreme magic artifact Flying Dagger, the superior magic artifact Shield, the elixir medicines, talismans, and other materials, he would have had around 7,000 spirit stones. However, selling elixir medicines, talismans, and materials was troublesome. Since Lu Chongsheng could use those items himself, he couldn't be bothered to sell them. And so, he spent all the spirit stones he had, not sparing a single one. All of them went into purchasing materials for crafting a second-rank puppet. However, the cost of crafting a second-rank puppet was indeed high. After asking about the prices of various materials, Lu Chongsheng had a rough idea of how much a second-rank puppet would cost to create. At least 3,000 spirit stones to start. As for the upper limit, that was harder to say. Because puppets were unlike alchemy, artifact refining, or talisman making. There were many kinds of puppets. Broadly defined, there were combat puppets, auxiliary puppets, and special puppets. In terms of appearance, there were humanoid puppets and beast-shaped puppets. In size, there were small, large, and gigantic puppets. Different puppets consumed completely different amounts of materials, and the time consumed also varied greatly. A gigantic puppet could consume several times or even dozens of times the materials of a small puppet. Due to limited finances, time, and environment, Lu Chongsheng didn't set his sights too high. He directly skipped over large and gigantic puppets, preparing to first craft a small, humanoid second-rank puppet that would cost 3,000 spirit stones. After all, he mainly needed the puppet for self-defense. In case of emergencies, it would serve as an additional method. This kind of small puppet, with combat power roughly equivalent to the early stages of Foundation establishment, would be sufficient for his use. However, because he had purchased a supreme quality talisman brush and talisman materials, he didn't have enough spirit stones. He still hadn't collected all the materials needed to craft this puppet. He was short by about 500 spirit stones. Lu Chongsheng was not in a hurry. He planned to leave it at that for the time being. First, he would complete the drawing of the second-rank talismans he had bought. By that time, he would have almost enough money to gather the rest of the materials. In any case, even if he did have all the materials, he didn't have the time or energy to craft the puppet right now. Just like the materials for the two puppets he had bought before, he hadn't had the time to fully craft them yet. Let alone crafting a second-rank puppet. Lu Chongsheng walked along the street, not heading straight home, but finding an inn instead. In the room, he checked to see if he was being tracked or left with any marks. Although places like Qingyun Commerce Guild and Myriad Treasures Pavilion wouldn't do such things, but as the saying goes, it doesn't hurt to be careful. After making sure there were no issues, Lu Chongsheng changed his appearance and put on a new set of clothes, then left the inn and Nine Dragons Market. He went around the marketplace, destroyed the clothes and temporary identity token he had used, and then returned to Nine Dragons Market. After arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, the shopkeeper Zhang Shan saw Lu Chongsheng and reported to him about the business matters of the shop over the past few days. He also told Lu Chongsheng that someone from White Jade Tower had come 3 days earlier, asking him to visit when he had the time. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng immediately knew it was about the two maids he had previously purchased from White Jade Tower. "Alright, I got it," Lu Chongsheng nodded. He wasn't in a rush to go to White Jade Tower. It was acceptable to visit White Jade Tower within a month of receiving the notice. Phew. After taking a seat in a chair in the shop on the 3rd floor, Lu Chongsheng took a long breath. His tightly wound mental spirit finally relaxed completely at this moment. Then, he took out the jade bamboo liquor from his storage bag and poured himself a cup. Today's back and forth with the selling and clearing up had kept his mental spirit taut, as if bearing a heavy load, and he was somewhat mentally exhausted. Therefore, Lu Chongsheng did not immediately attempt to draw a second-rank talisman. His mental spirit was somewhat fatigued now, and in a poor state. If he failed the drawing, it would be quite painful. After all, the cost of a second-rank talisman was indeed a bit high. Thinking of how other talisman masters had to spend money to practice, Lu Chongsheng understood why the profit margin for talismans was so high. Because they burned through so much money, if the profits weren't high, who would do it? After sipping 2 cups of jade bamboo liquor and resting for a while, Lu Chongsheng took out the red glow talisman brush and began to draw superior grade talismans. He needed to replenish his talisman stock as they were running low, and also to get accustomed to this new talisman brush. As expected of a supreme talisman brush, the flow of spiritual power is clearly smoother when drawing talismans. Even when spiritual power fluctuates slightly and becomes too scattered, it helps to smooth it out. After drawing 2 superior grade talismans and experiencing the effects of the supreme talisman brush, Lu Chongsheng nodded in approval. But this was just an additional effect of the talisman brush. The main effect of the supreme talisman brush was to endure the surge of spirit ink and spiritual power, better outlining the talisman lines on the talisman paper. For example, with a middle-grade artifact talisman brush, no matter how high the talisman-making skill, one couldn't use it to draw second-rank talismans. Night fell. Lu Chongsheng returned to his residence. He inquired about the home situation with Xiaoqing and the others over the past few days. Apart from the birth of his 42nd child, there weren't any other significant events. Lu Chongsheng nodded slightly, glanced at the child, had a meal, and then went to bed early to rest. The next day, Lu Chongsheng, fully refreshed, came to the talisman room of the spiritual talisman shop. Preparing to begin drawing the second-rank talismans. He laid out the pale purple beast skin talisman paper, took the red glow talisman brush, and imbibed the talisman ink made from demon beast blood into the tip of the brush. Chapter 153. It's time for the child to practice martial arts. Afterward, spiritual power surged into his palm, then onto the talisman brush in his hand, and finally to the tip of the brush. Under the flow of spiritual power, the brush shaft emitted a faint red glow. And the tip of the brush radiated a purple luster. Immediately, Lu Chongsheng, with a serious face and in total concentration, began to draw a second-rank talisman. The drawing process was very slow. The lines of the talisman appeared smooth and flowing, but each step seemed somewhat strenuous. It made sweat beads appear on Lu Chongsheng's forehead. Time passed, bit by bit. Finally, Lu Chongsheng completed the last stroke of the talisman line. In an instant, all the lines of the talisman paper connected end to end, with purple current surging through them, and flame spread from the edges of the paper, exuding a terrifying spiritual pressure. However, after a moment, the spiritual pressure dispersed, and the talisman lines solidified. A second-rank lower-grade talisman, the Thunder Fire Talisman, was completed. A success on the first attempt, not bad at all. Lu Chongsheng looked at the Thunder Fire Talisman with a satisfied expression and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead. Though drawing a second-rank talisman did not drain him completely, it was still a significant expenditure. His mental spirit and spiritual power were both greatly depleted, leaving him feeling exhausted. A second-rank lower-grade talisman, its power compares to a strike at the Foundation establishment initial stage. However, with my current strength, I can't activate too many of this caliber at once. I must be careful in guiding and controlling them, otherwise, a slight mishap could cause injury to myself. Lu Chongsheng held the Thunder Fire Talisman in his hands, his face showing joy. A second-rank lower-grade talisman corresponds to a strike at the initial stage of Foundation establishment. If used properly, it could even threaten cultivators at the Foundation establishment stage. However, the higher the grade of the talisman, the greater the demands on one's mental spirit and control over spiritual power. This is why Lu Chongsheng can use dozens of first-grade lower and middle-grade talismans at once. But for superior-grade talismans, even now, he can only use 5 or 6 at a time. As for supreme talismans, at most 2 or 3. Economizing is one aspect. The main reason is that the higher the grade of talisman, the more demanding its use. Defensive and auxiliary talismans are still manageable. As for attack talismans, if too many are activated at once without proper guidance and control, the power of the talismans might leak and even harm the user. This is considered a disadvantage of talismans. Otherwise, the cultivation world would be dominated by talisman masters. Encountering people during confrontations, they would just throw out dozens or hundreds of talismans. Who could withstand that? Or if an energy refinement initial or middle stage cultivator had a bunch of second or third rank talismans, who could withstand that? Now, even in the energy refinement late stage, Lu Changsheng couldn't control the use of a third rank talisman. A slip-up, and the explosive leak of talisman power could injure him. This is also one of the reasons why talisman treasures are so valuable. While they are potent, even an energy refinement initial stage cultivator could use them, unleashing part of their power without harming themselves. Lu Changsheng put away the Thunder Fire talisman and went to the rest area to meditate and rest. After restoring about 70 to 80% of his spiritual power, he got up and went out, preparing to head to the White Jade Tower. A quarter of an hour later, Lu Changsheng arrived at the White Jade Tower. The maid in red informed him that Feng Jionyang was currently occupied. He was ushered into a private room where tea was prepared, and he was asked to wait for a little while. Before long, the crisp sound of high heels came, accompanied by a knock at the door. "Come in," Lu Changsheng said. The door opened, and a strikingly beautiful woman in a black gossamer dress walked in. "Young Master Lu, I apologize for making you wait." Feng Jionyang smiled coquettishly and curtsied to Lu Changsheng. Her demeanor was elegant and dignified, but the glimpses of her black silk-clad legs under the dress were seductively enchanting. "Manager Feng, I received a message that the two maids I reserved have arrived," Lu Changsheng said to the ravishing woman before him with a smile. "Please wait a moment, young Master Lu, I have already instructed someone to bring them," Feng Jionyang said in a gentle voice. Then she walked to the table, daintily arched her slender white fingers, slightly bending over to pour tea for Lu Changsheng from the teapot. Afterwards, she turned her voluptuous hips and sat down gracefully in the chair beside him, her legs naturally crossing, revealing a black high-heeled shoe with a golden phoenix bird pattern underneath the gossamer dress. Lu Changsheng couldn't help but inwardly sigh. This steward of the White Jade Tower was innately seductive, and every gesture seemed like a tease. Even a seasoned man like him found her tempting, let alone others. Unfortunately, one could look but not touch. A moment later, a woman in a red dress arrived with two beautiful maids. One was in her mid-20s. Bare-faced, her countenance was slightly austere, her long, sharp brows like pointed swords, and her eyes held a trace of coldness instead of dull resignation. Clad in tight-fitting red attire, she stood tall and straight, her long black hair tied into a ponytail at her back, exuding the temperament of a swordswoman. Her tall and straight stature revealed she possessed martial prowess. Perhaps she was indeed a female knight. The other maid appeared to be about 16. With jet-black hair reaching her waist and dressed in a flowing white fringed dress. Her features were lovely, her skin was fair, and her figure was well developed. Looking down from her perspective, she obviously couldn't see the delicate embroidered shoes beneath her dress. As she entered the room, a hint of grievance flickered in her eyes, evoking a sense of pity. "Young Master Lu, these are the maids you purchased, Jiang Luyue and Yu Yao." Feng Jionyang introduced them to Lu Changsheng in a flirtatious voice, then turned to the two women and said, "Go and greet young Master Lu." Her tone contained an undeniable authority. "Greetings, young Master Lu." Chapter 154, It's time for the child to practice martial arts. The two women immediately performed a curtsy towards Lu Changsheng. In their eyes that looked towards Lu Changsheng, there was also a hint of fascination. After all, the Lu Changsheng before them was handsome, with a tall and straight figure and a gentle temperament. Dressed in a green robe decorated with bamboo leaves, he gave off a refreshing feeling as though one were basking in the spring breeze. It even elicited a sense of goodwill. One could tell at a glance that this young man was a kindly person, a graceful and suave young master. "Would you two ladies be willing to become my maids?" Lu Changsheng also stood up, with his hands clasped behind his back, and asked with a smile. He noticed the look in the women's eyes. To such a gaze, he was all too familiar. Under his care, it wouldn't take long for the life of these two women to thrive again, feeling vibrant and colorful. This humble girl is willing, Yaoer is willing. Both women responded immediately. Alright, Manager Feng, I'm quite satisfied. Seeing their response, Lu Changsheng chuckled softly and nodded his head. He suddenly thought of the crying elder who created the immortal beauty technique. If he were to come to a place like White Jade Tower, surely it would be unimaginable to ask whether the other party was willing, right? Afterwards, Lu Changsheng completed the contract with Feng Jionyang and settled the final payment with spirit stones. Young Master Lu, you've spent over 1,000 spirit stones at our White Jade Tower, and from now on, you will be our member client. In the future, if you come to purchase maids, the deposit can be waived, and if you're not satisfied, there will be no loss incurred. Moreover, every so often, our White Jade Tower will also have a selection of high-quality maids available exclusively for our members to choose from. If young Master Lu is interested, I will have someone notify you when the time comes. At this moment, Feng Jionyang specifically handed over a white jade token to Lu Changsheng, saying so. Oh. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng raised an eyebrow in surprise. He didn't expect that White Jade Tower had such a membership system. He wasn't concerned about waiving the deposit. But he was somewhat interested in the high-quality maids exclusive to members. Speaking of which, if I continue to spend, are there perks like an advanced member or something? Lu Changsheng took the white jade token and examined it closely. One side was engraved with the pattern of the White Jade Tower, and the other had the character Lu, probably pre-customized. Our White Jade Tower does indeed have multiple membership levels, which are there to provide better service for every customer, Feng Jionyang replied with a seductive smile. Okay, if there are high-quality maids available exclusively for members in the future, you can send someone to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop to notify me, Lu Changsheng pondered for a moment. Originally, he planned to slow down and not come to the White Jade Tower to buy maids for the time being. After all, he already had so many maids by now. If he were to buy more maids, he really would have to move to a bigger place. Moreover, spending too much money at White Jade Tower might arouse suspicion at the Lu family. Nevertheless, such matters could be learned about just a bit, and it wasn't necessary to make a purchase right away. If there turned out to be a good selection, he could consider it then. Very well, no problem, take care, young Master Lu, Feng Jionyang smiled charmingly, seeing Lu Changsheng out of the White Jade Tower. Jiang Luyue, have you practiced martial arts before? Walking on the road, Lu Changsheng turned to glance at Jiang Luyue beside him, whose eyes and brows carried a hint of martial valor, and inquired. Reporting to young master, Luyue has practiced martial arts since childhood and only embarked on the path of cultivation after coming into contact with a cultivation opportunity, Jiang Luyue replied respectfully. She quickly adjusted to her new status. With the training she received at White Jade Tower, they could only hope to find a good master. Now that Lu Changsheng appeared to be a good master, it was natural for her to adopt a proper attitude. How skilled are you in martial arts? Lu Changsheng continued to inquire. He entertained the idea of teaching martial arts to the children without spiritual roots, to create a martial family among the secular world, and this idea had never changed. Now that Lu Pingan and the others were of age, it was time to start martial training. Initially, he thought of asking Li Feiyu to teach. But he was well aware of Li Feiyu's situation. To leave the Lu family and struggle day in and day out for a living, Li Feiyu simply did not have the time. If he asked Li Feiyu, the latter would surely agree. But it would delay Li Feiyu's time, and Li Feiyu would decline any payment offered. Moreover, with so many children of his own, 1 or 2 people would probably be overwhelmed if they had to teach. Therefore, he thought of hiring several people to teach the children martial arts. According to worldly standards, my martial arts strength is at the stage of an innate grandmaster, Jiang Luyue said. Can you teach the child martial arts? Lu Changsheng inquired. Having practiced martial arts and teaching others to do so were two different matters. For instance, many of the maids he had purchased from the White Jade Tower knew martial arts. But asking them to teach was another story. I have never taught before, but I can try, Jianghu replied. Alright, Lu Chongqing nodded. He thought about bringing Jianghu back to Qingzhou Mountain to see if she would suffice. If she really couldn't do it, he would directly go to the secular world and spend money to hire so-called martial arts masters to teach his child. Money can make the devil turn the millstone. He refused to believe that he couldn't hire a martial arts instructor from the secular world with the amount of money he was willing to spend. After bringing the two women home, Lu Chongqing instructed Bai He to arrange accommodations for them and explain the situation. By now, the many women in the courtyard had grown accustomed to Lu Chongqing buying maids. Moreover, they couldn't really say anything about such matters, they had no right to. 6 days later. Inside the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Chongqing held a spiritual pattern carving knife, tracing elegant curves on the chest of a metal humanoid puppet that stood as tall as him. With each cut of the carving knife, a beautiful line was left on the puppet. After a while. Finally finished, Lu Chongqing stopped his work and looked at the puppet in front of him, nodding in satisfaction. This was naturally not the second-rank puppet he intended to craft. Instead, it was a middle-grade first-rank puppet. The materials he had bought previously he worked on whenever he had free time, which is why it had taken until now to complete. Lu Chongqing used the puppet control technique to manipulate the spiritual hub in the chest of the puppet and took control of it. Then with a slight stir of his mental spirit. Instantly, the metal puppet took a step forward. And then a step back. It jumped to the left. It swung left and right, leaping and flipping. Under Lu Chongqing's control, the seemingly cumbersome metal puppet was incredibly agile. This kind of puppet could perform any action a normal person could. It could even do things beyond the abilities of the average person. Next, Lu Chongqing took out the green-face sword from his storage bag. The sword gleamed with a cold light as it left its sheath and slashed at the puppet. Clang! Sparks flew from the impact. But the sword only left a white mark on the chest of the puppet. Not bad, Lu Chongqing nodded slightly. Apart from being made of metal materials, he had also engraved robust spiritual patterns and spells on this puppet. It could withstand attacks from energy refinement middle-stage spells and middle-grade flying swords. And the spiritual hub in the puppet's chest could store spiritual energy, allowing its arms to release the fireball technique and frost technique. However, both the fireball technique and frost technique could be used only 3 times before the stored spiritual energy was depleted. The only downside is that a person's mental strength is limited and can't control too many puppets at the same time. With my current energy refinement late-stage cultivation level, I can only control 2 or 3 puppets at most, Lu Chongqing mused as he looked at the puppet in front of him. First and second rank puppets lacked their own consciousness. They had to be manipulated using the puppet control technique. It was akin to maneuvering a magic artifact. But in combat, having to control the artifact, use talismans, and also manage puppets was an enormous burden that made it impossible to unleash full power. There's a reason why puppetry is such an unpopular vocation, Lu Chongqing shook his head and said. He felt that crafting a few puppets would be enough. Too many would be useless, he couldn't achieve the army of puppets he imagined. If I break through to Foundation establishment and give birth to divine sense, then I should be able to control several puppets at once, right? And I've heard that in the cultivation world, there are also techniques for cultivating divine sense. Lu Chongqing's eyes narrowed slightly as he contemplated. Chapter 155, Baby Birth Lottery. Reset, _1 time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than 2 months had passed. Due to the daily tasks of crafting second-rank spirit talismans and creating puppets, Lu Chongqing's days became even busier. But busy as he was, he never forgot what was truly important. In those past months, he had successfully sired children with both Jianghu and Yu Yao. For maids like these, with spiritual roots, Lu Changsheng would always give them special attention. At the same time, little Qing and the maid Song Lan, under his favor, had also conceived their second child. One day, on the third floor of the spiritual talisman shop. After completing the daily crafting of talismans, Lu Changsheng went to the storage room to polish puppet components with his spiritual power. In a corner nearby, various puppet parts were laid out. Although the materials for a second-rank puppet weren't entirely complete, it didn't stop Lu Changsheng from crafting some components in his spare time. After all, this wasn't something that could be finished in a month or two. It was a long-term project. He estimated it would take about 3 or 4 months, or perhaps even longer. At that moment, quite abruptly, a profound and mysterious pulsation arose in Lu Changsheng. A pulsation from the spiritual root. Xiao Yura's child has been born. This child has a spiritual root. And it's a 7th-grade spiritual root. Lu Changsheng sensed this pulsation, first in surprise, then immediately his face lit up with joy. Having experienced the surge from a spiritual root enhancement so many times, Lu Changsheng could more or less judge the quality of the child's spiritual root based on the feeling. Feeling this surge of the spiritual root now, and keeping in mind the timeline of his wives' and concubines' pregnancies, he immediately knew that Xiao Yura's child had been born, and that it possessed a 7th-grade spiritual root. This made Lu Changsheng's heart surge with excitement and joy. However excited, Lu Changsheng did not rush home to see the child right away. After all, it wouldn't do for him to wait at home or rush back every time a child with a spiritual root was born. Once or twice was fine, but too often it would arouse suspicion. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath to temper his inner delight. He set the component aside and began to meditate and cultivate. An hour later, Lu Changsheng opened his eyes and could feel that his speed of cultivation had markedly increased from before. It had improved by about 10%. I feel that with 2 or 3 more 7th-grade spiritual roots, my own spiritual root would be able to ascend to the 6th grade. Lu Changsheng's eyes sparkled with anticipation. He felt that if he just continued to expand his family peacefully, achieving a middle-grade spiritual root was not far off. After that, Lu Changsheng continued working on the screws in his hand. But, thinking of the child at home, his heart felt so restless that he couldn't even focus on screwing properly anymore. Seeing the outside getting dark, Lu Changsheng stood up and went straight home to see the child. Just as he returned home, one of his wives told him that Xiao Yueru had given birth. It was a daughter. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng went to the backyard to visit. Looking at his daughter with a 7th-grade spiritual root, Lu Changsheng's delight grew the more he looked at her. This scene filled Xiao Yueru with smiling happiness, and made the other women envious. They thought to themselves that their lord husband truly loved the children, and resolved to bear him many more. Meanwhile, inside a certain cave dwelling, a skinny young man, holding a black jar, was overjoyed. Within the jar, there was a blood-red goo worm, seemingly on its last breath, languishing half-dead. This is the Lockhart goo. Anyone bitten by the Lockhart goo will fall in love with its host. My grandmother said before she passed away that our ancestor was just a destitute cultivator, but it was by a stroke of luck he obtained this Lockhart goo, which made one fairy after another fall for him, enabling him to eventually become a nascent soul immortal. The exuberant young man said. Then, he set the jar down and began to form a spiritual art with his hands, dripping a drop of his essence blood from his fingertips. Upon sight of fresh blood, the previously listless blood-red goo worm suddenly sprang to life, licking the droplet hungrily. Its body turned even more brilliantly translucent, resembling a piece of bright blood jade. "Come, little fellow." The skinny young man watched as the blood-red goo worm finished licking up his essence blood, pulled out a dagger, and made a cut on his palm. Then the goo worm burrowed straight into the flesh of his palm. The Lockhart goo can bind at most 3 people, and they cannot be much higher in cultivation than oneself. It was because our ancestor got too greedy that the Lockhart goo became ineffective, leading his numerous wives to strike him down in anger, which ultimately led to his tragic death. Therefore, I must use it with utmost caution and choose the targets carefully. The skinny young man gazed at the Lockhart Gu in his palm, muttering to himself. He visualized a handsome and tall young man in his mind. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. In that time, Lu Changsheng's life remained steady, with no significant changes. Thinking about his 2 wives who had come with him from Jianghu mountain, it was almost time for them to return. They had been nurturing their pregnancies for over half a year, and Lu Changsheng paid them extra attention to ensure both women conceived successfully. Xiao Yuyao also conceived her second child with his favor, bringing the total number of his children to 58. On the 3rd floor of the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng was assembling a humanoid puppet. The puppet was nearly 2 meters tall, pitch black all over, gleaming with a metallic luster. One arm held a sword, the other a shield, and it bore 5 black javelins on its back. If there are any extra magic artifacts in the future, they could also be directly installed on this puppet, though it won't be able to unleash the full power of the magic artifacts, the effect won't be too far off. Chapter 156, Baby Birth Lottery. Reset. Lu Changsheng inspected the puppet he had installed, appraising it. Puppets weren't as strictly confined as talisman making. After understanding the principles, one could flexibly modify certain minor areas depending on the situation. Then, Lu Changsheng removed the golden heart protecting mirror from the chest of the puppet. Inside was hollow, being the core of the puppet's spiritual control mechanism. If the core were damaged, the puppet would be wasted, necessitating major repairs. Lu Changsheng took out a spiritual pattern carving knife and, infusing it with spiritual power, slowly traced over the puppet's chest core. He needed to activate all the spiritual patterns and formations on the puppet's body, linking them together. This was the final step and also the most critical one. If he failed, he would have to check the other part's spiritual pattern formations again, re-engrave, and reassemble. During this process, Lu Changsheng was extremely focused. Each time the carving knife landed, it was precise and deliberate. Time passed by slowly. Finally, Lu Changsheng completed the last stroke. He then poured a jar of thickly mixed spiritual liquid into it and embedded 10 spirit stones. In that moment, the entire puppet's surface shimmered with spiritual light. Pattern after pattern emerged, ancient and mysterious, emitting a faint spiritual pressure. Phew, it's finally a success. Lu Changsheng looked at the metal puppet before him, revealing a tired smile on his face. To construct this second-rank puppet, it had taken him a total of over 4 months. Now that it was complete, he felt a considerable sense of achievement. Immediately, Lu Changsheng performed the puppet control technique to take charge of the puppet in front of him. Instantly, the puppet's surface glowed with a faint luster like that of ink jade, and a humming sound emanated from within. It was as if a war machine was awakening, spreading a terrifying spiritual pressure. His mental spirit nudged slightly. Whoosh! The puppet, holding the black gold long knife, made a fierce slash forward, the blade like thunder and lightning, seemingly tearing the air apart. It looks alright, but this place is too small to test the real strength of this second-rank puppet. With too much force, the house might just collapse, said Lu Changsheng, smacking his lips and shaking his head. The puppet before him was the second-rank lower-grade humanoid combat puppet he had intended to build. It was a puppet designed for close combat, combining offense and defense. However, despite its emphasis on melee, that doesn't mean it lacked ranged attacks. The 5 javelins on its back could be launched over long distances. Each strike was comparable to a hit from an early-phase Foundation establishment cultivator. For a Qi refinement realm cultivator facing this puppet, if they were too slow to escape, it almost guaranteed a dead end. As for facing a Foundation establishment great cultivator, one could only say, unless they were old and frail, just coming out of a battle, or had exhausted all their skills, a foundation-building great cultivator. Otherwise, it would be a fool's dream to rely on a single puppet to defeat a foundation-building great cultivator. After all, anyone who could achieve the status of a foundation-building great cultivator was no simple individual. None were devoid of remarkable abilities. However, to allow this puppet to unleash its full strength and sustain combat, it requires embedding middle-grade spirit stones, or even superior-grade spirit stones. 10 lower-grade spirit stones simply can't sustain its continuous outbursts, Lu Changsheng mused as he assessed the puppet before him, stroking his chin. This puppet, although it had a spirit-gathering formation for storing spiritual energy, had a limited capacity and couldn't sustain long periods of combat. To operate for extended durations and engage in lengthy battles, it absolutely depended on spirit stones for sustenance. Let's leave it like this for now. When I have spirit stones, I'll exchange for 10 middle-grade spirit stones, Lu Changsheng silently decided, not feeling too distressed about it. It was not like he was going to skimp on 10 middle-grade spirit stones when he had already constructed a second-rank puppet, even though embedding 10 middle-grade spirit stones did indeed feel somewhat excessive. Converted to lower-grade spirit stones, that would be a full 1,000. But he wouldn't use this second-rank puppet often, so it wouldn't consume spirit stones. In the event of an extended period of operational combat, it would be during a crisis where his life was at stake, and he couldn't skimp on this expense. 9 days later, the second elder was about to return to the Lu family and sent someone to inform Lu Changsheng. Knowing that the flying boat could seat 3 people, Lu Changsheng decided to take 2 of his wives and Jiang Luyue back with him. He had Jiang Luyue return to teach the children martial arts. When the second elder saw that Lu Changsheng had another wife, and they were all pregnant or holding babies, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He wanted to offer a few words of advice, but didn't quite know what to say, only reminding Lu Changsheng to take it easy with the children and to pay more attention to his health. In his heart, he resolved to let the fourth elder discuss this matter with Lu Changsheng, worried that if Lu Changsheng kept on like this, he seriously feared the man might ruin his health. A day and a half later, the flying boat smoothly returned to Jianghu Mountain. After getting home, Lu Changsheng talked with his wives about Jiang Luyue teaching martial arts to their children. The wives understood. Knowing that their children lacked a spiritual root, it was good for them to learn martial arts in preparation for life in the secular world. If nothing else, practicing martial arts would at least strengthen their bodies and keep them healthy, but seeing that Jiang Luyue was also pregnant, the wives couldn't help but silently criticize their husband, who didn't even spare their children's teacher. After staying on Jianghu Mountain for 3 days, during which Lu Changsheng, under the guidance of the fourth elder in talisman making, displayed his progress in talisman making, he began learning about superior-grade talismans. This was in line with his previous plans. By the next visit, he would be able to naturally reveal his status as a superior-grade talisman master. At the same time, he also paid a visit to Li Feiyu, chatting with him about coming to teach his children martial arts. According to his plans, the first batch of children would be sent to the secular world in 2 to 3 years, and now, asking Li Feiyu to teach them martial arts, as well as some worldly knowledge and experience, would bring some benefits to the children. Chapter 157, Baby Birth Lottery. Reset. Facing Lu Changsheng's request, Li Feiyu readily agreed. But just as Lu Changsheng had guessed, Li Feiyu indicated that he had agreed early on to teach them martial arts. Moreover, when teaching his own nephew and niece, how could he accept money? Finally, under Lu Changsheng's persistent persuasion, he accepted a fee of 5 spirit stones per month. Then, 3 days passed. Lu Changsheng left with the second elder. At the time of departure, Lu Changsheng had intended to start his plan to raise the 9 Netherhound. But he found that the 9 Netherhound had already integrated into the family. All the children in the family liked the 9 Netherhound very much. If he were to take the 9 Netherhound away, the children would probably cry for several days. After some thought, Lu Changsheng decided to continue raising the 9 Netherhound at home. After all, being able to help with the children was already a significant role. It was somewhat unfair for a demon beast with a heavenly grade bloodline to merely accompany the children. And on this trip back to the Nine Dragons Market, Lu Chongsheng also took Lu Zier and Lu Qing'er, the sisters, with him. Taking the two girls out for fun, to relax a bit. When the two girls arrived at the Nine Dragons Market and saw the group of lively and lovely women in Lu Changsheng's courtyard, they too were rather surprised. Although they did not mind Lu Chongsheng taking wives and concubines, they even found such behavior normal. But while other people occasionally doted on their wives and concubines, favoring maids, many wives might only be favored a few times a year. Yet Lu Chongsheng was generous with his affection. Each would occasionally be favored enough to conceive children. If it were not for Lu Changsheng's strong and healthy appearance at night, they would actually be worried about their husband's health. A month later. Within the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Chongsheng was meditating and cultivating. With the automatic cultivation of the immortal beauty technique and the improvement from the peach blossom goo, his appearance became more and more handsome. The whole person sat with closed eyes, looking tranquil and out of the dust, emanating an aura of spring breeze and calm detachment. After a long while. At this rate, I think it will still take 6 or 7 years to reach the pinnacle of the 7th level energy refinement. It's really too slow, and I have no idea when I can draw a cultivation technique to replace this returning origin technique. Lu Chongsheng opened his eyes to inspect his Qi ocean core internally, looking at that lake of spiritual energy within and couldn't help but sigh. He persisted in meditating for 2 hours every day, assisted by yellow dragon elixir and energy refining powder. But the progress was still not satisfactory. Aside from the cultivation time and his spiritual root, Lu Chongsheng believed the biggest problem was still the returning origin technique he was practicing. This primary level technique was too balanced and stable, leading to a very slow cultivation progress. Just then, quite abruptly, a profound and mysterious trembling arose within Lu Chongsheng. It was the familiar tremor of the spiritual root. A child with a spiritual root was born, bringing him an additional bonus. Simultaneously, a system alert sounded: "Congratulations to the host for the birth of 7 children with spiritual roots, you have won a chance to draw a prize. Is it Yunar or Zenshin's child?" With that tremor and the system alert, excitement and surprise immediately appeared in Lu Changsheng's eyes. Based on the timing, he immediately guessed that it must be Chu Zhenjin or Lu Miao's child being born. If it's Miao's child, then I as a husband have really been negligent. Lu Chongsheng thought about the previous times when Lu Miaoyun was giving birth and he was not by her side. If this child was also Lu Miao's and, again, he was not there, it would indeed be somewhat negligent. Sigh. Lu Chongsheng shook his head and let out a long breath, calming his mood slightly. He felt that the spiritual root of this child was probably not very good. The enhancement it brought him was minuscule. It was very likely to be a 9th grade spiritual root. But this was normal. The parent's spiritual roots could affect the child's spiritual root, but it only relatively increased the upper limit of the child's spiritual root. It was not that if the parent's spiritual roots were good, the child's would definitely be better. Many children's spiritual roots were not as good as their parents', or they might not even have one. 7 children with spiritual roots. Could it be that for children with spiritual roots, you get 2 shares of child money at once? Lu Chongsheng thought about the system's drawing rules, musing to himself. Without further conjecture, Lu Chongsheng thought to himself, "System, I want to draw a prize." Immediately, a pale red lottery wheel from the system appeared. "I hope for a cultivation technique." Looking at the lottery wheel before him, Lu Chongsheng silently wished. Then, with a mere thought, he began the drawing process. On the wheel, a streak of golden light emerged, swiftly spinning. After a few seconds, the wheel began to slow down and eventually stopped on elixir medicines. Chapter 158, These days are indeed full of hope. Reset_1, ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a third-stage life-extending pill. The reward has been distributed to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. An image of a pill emerged from the big wheel, accompanied by a system notification sound. Life-extending pill? Lu Chongqing furrowed his eyebrows upon seeing the reward. He was, of course, aware of what life-extending pills were. They were a type of elixir medicine that was extremely rare in the cultivation world. As the name suggested, they could extend one's lifespan after consumption. A first-grade life-extending pill could extend life by 5 to 10 years. A second-rank life-extending pill could extend life by 10 to 20 years. A third-stage life-extending pill could extend life by 30 to 50 years. The reason for such a large variance in life extension was partly due to the quality of the elixir medicine. Another factor was based on the physical condition of the user. For an elderly person who had already exhausted their potential, even if they took a life-extending pill, the effect would be significantly less. After all, a life-extending pill just extends life. It's not a resuscitation or life-renewing elixir medicine. I'm still young with a long life ahead of me. Getting such a pill really feels like a bit of a white elephant. But no matter, who would complain about too much life? If I have a long life, it also reminds me to take things steadily. I don't have much, but I have time, and plenty of days ahead. Although life-extending pills were rare and precious, Lu Chongqing didn't feel too excited about this reward. After all, compared to the other items he had drawn, the life-extending pill seemed somewhat insignificant. Then, Lu Chongqing looked at the third-stage life-extending pill in the system space. Elixir medicine, life-extending pill, quality, third stage, description, after consumption, one's lifespan can be increased by 30 to 50 years. Only the first pill of the same rank is effective, as expected, it's the same as I know it to be. Even if it's a system product, there can't be too much of a difference. That said, if I were to sell this life-extending pill, couldn't it fetch tens of thousands of spirit stones at least? Lu Chongqing thought to himself as he looked at the pill. But that was just a thought. Life-extending pills were extremely rare, and essentially priceless. They could usually only be seen in auctions. And even there, what were often available were first and second-rank life-extending pills. Lu Chongqing had never heard of a third-stage life-extending pill being sold anywhere. So, even if he wanted to sell it, it would be difficult and not without fear of attracting trouble. Retrieve. Lu Chongqing extracted the pill from the system space. Instantly, a brownish-green pill that was lustrous, full, and exuded a rich scent of life appeared in front of Lu Chongqing. There were also faint silver patterns on the pill. So this is a life-extending pill. Lu Chongqing examined the pill in his hand. It was his first time seeing one. It didn't look particularly special. But the presence of the pill patterns on it let him know that this was a top-quality life-extending pill. Because only elixir medicines of excellent quality would have pill patterns. The more pill patterns there were, the better the quality of the elixir medicine and the less elixir toxicity it contained. This life-extending pill had 3 pill patterns, signifying it was among the top tier of medicines. It could only be said that system space products were certainly of fine quality. Guaranteed in quality, they instilled confidence in those who consumed them. Without looking further, Lu Chongqing swallowed the life-extending pill. The taste of the pill wasn't particularly pleasant. As he swallowed it, it transformed into an immensely pure and abundant vitality that spread within Lu Chongqing. It filled him with so much energy and vitality that he felt an inexhaustible strength. At the same time, it brought an indescribably soothing comfort throughout his body, making him let out an involuntary sigh of relief. This medicinal power diffused within Lu Chongqing, washing over his flesh, meridians, bones, dantian, rejuvenating every part of him, causing his body to shine with spiritual light. As if it was brimming with new life. For a long while, the effects of the life-extending pill dissipated. Phew! Lu Chongsheng opened his eyes and let out a long, eased breath. He just felt full of energy, invigorated to his core, refreshed and like he had been reborn. Does this life-extending pill also revitalize and strengthen the body besides extending life? Lu Chongsheng was somewhat surprised by the effects of the pill. He had been practicing the 100 Refinements treasure body art, making his physical body naturally extraordinary. But the recent life-extending pill had indeed made his body feel relaxed and rejuvenated, as if reborn. Could it be that I've overindulged over the years, incurring deficits and damaging my lifespan? Or does an increase in lifespan naturally bring about a richer vitality and more abundant energy? Lu Chongsheng pondered internally, unclear about the exact reason. After all, the physical body is one thing, and lifespan is another. He didn't dwell on it too long, knowing it to be a good thing for him. He then closed his eyes to sense the changes to his lifespan. My lifespan, has it increased by 50 years? Lu Chongsheng muttered to himself. He had no way to be sure of the exact number of years his lifespan had increased. But he had a vague sense that his lifespan had been extended by 50 years. This intuition was quite mysterious, he couldn't really explain it himself. Cultivators at the Qi refinement realm, as long as they don't engage in conflict and maintain their health well, can generally live past 100 years. If one breaks through to the energy refinement late stage, they can live for a couple of jiazi, that's around 120 years. As for someone like me, who never fights with others and knows how to maintain health, living to 120 should be a breeze. Now, with this life-extending pill adding 50 years to my life, it means I could live up to 170 years, almost the lifespan of a Foundation establishment cultivator. If in the future, I get another first-grade and second-rank life-extending pill, wouldn't I be able to live up to 200 years, on par with a Foundation establishment great cultivator? No, by then I will have achieved Foundation establishment myself and with the help of life-extending pills, could live for 300 years. Chapter 159, these days are indeed full of hope. Reset. In over 300 years, I could have at least 1,000 children. By then, as long as the children work hard and make me proud, won't I just be lying down to achieve core formation? After core formation, with a lifespan of 500 years and an extra 100 years from lifespan extension pills, forming a nascent soul shouldn't be a big problem, right? Nascent soul true lord, TSK, in this Jianghu country cultivation realm, a nascent soul true lord is a dominant presence. Even looking at the entire southern wilderness cultivation realm, nascent soul true lords are rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Life is indeed full of things to look forward to. But with such a long lifespan, what am I going to do with my time? I can't just stay home and keep having kids every day, can I? Lu Chongsheng suddenly found himself in a happy predicament. Before he knew it, over a month had passed. During this time, Guan Xian and the maid Yi Lian became pregnant. And Yun Xianxian's child was also born. However, this child did not have a spiritual root. Lu Chongsheng wasn't disappointed by this. Now that he had many wives and concubines, many of whom possessed spiritual roots, they had all virtually had a turn giving birth. Thus, his excitement over spiritual root-bearing wives and concubines having children had gradually diminished. He could now look at it all with a normal heart. After the child was born, Lu Chongsheng took Yun Xianxian and the child to report the good news to Yu Maocheng and his wife. After all, not only were they Yun Xianxian's elders, they were also their matchmakers. Now that the child was born, it was only natural to pay them a visit. On hearing the joyful news, they were delighted and even hosted a small celebration with 2 tables at the Jade Meal Hall. In the meantime, Yu Ningrong shared a piece of inside information with Lu Chongsheng. She said that the Lu family ancestor had at most 10 years to live. These words gave Lu Chongsheng a momentary pause. Previously, when he was in the Lu family, he had vaguely heard that the Lu family ancestor was not in good health. Now that Yu Ningrong was saying this, it felt very likely to be true. This indicated that the situation for the Lu family was not optimistic. If no new foundation-building great cultivator emerges in the Lu family before the Lu family ancestors' demise, safeguarding the spiritual vein of Jianghu mountain will be very difficult. Lu Chongqing thought to himself. In the cultivation world, a spiritual vein-blessed land is very important. Many Lu's cultivators dream of owning their own spiritual vein-blessed land, which is also considered a way to establish oneself in the cultivation world. If the Lu family ancestor dies and the deterrent is gone, Jianghu mountain will become a big juicy piece of meat, and everyone will want to take a bite. Without going far, the Chen family of Red Leaf Valley, the Lu family's sworn enemy, will not miss this opportunity. Lu Chongqing didn't give it much thought. These were not matters he could concern himself with. If the Lu family ancestor really runs into trouble and the Lu family faces a crisis, he will naturally contribute where he can. If he can't help, then he'll have to take his wives, concubines, and children and flee. After all, he is just the son-in-law of the Lu family, not one of their own. He keeps the Lu family's kindness in mind. But he won't risk his life for the Lu family. He also doesn't have the capability for that. Half a month later, Lu Chongqing received a letter from Jianghu mountain. This came as a surprise to him. After all, he used to visit once a month. Now he only returns once every 6 months. So, normally, there wouldn't be any correspondence. Moreover, the letter was delivered using urgent avian messenger service. Lu Chongqing opened the letter. It was from Lu Miaoyun. In the letter, Lu Miaoyun said that something happened at home and he needed to come back to handle it. The incident began when Lu Pingan and a few little ones were playing outside with a 9 netherhound. A member of the Lu family named Lu Miaoyang, seeing the 9 netherhound, was filled with greed. Seeing that Lu Pingan and the others were young, he thought about tricking them into giving up the 9 netherhound. Lu Pingan and the others, although young, were not foolish and quickly saw through the ruse. This caused the other party to become furiously embarrassed and attempt to lay hands on Lu Pingan. In such a situation, how could the 9 netherhound just watch its little master get hurt? It fiercely intervened and severely injured the Lu family member. Immediately, the incident blew up. In a cultivation family like the Lu family, the first rule is a strict ban on fighting. Family disciples, under no circumstances, may engage in private feuds or conflicts, or raise their hands against others. If there are any unsolvable resentments or differences, they can be reported directly to the family. Then the family head or the elders can manage and resolve them. Although the trouble was initially caused by the other party. But now that he had been severely injured by a 9 netherhound, according to the Lu family clan rules, Lu Chongqing was also responsible. Especially since this Lu family disciple named Lu Miaoyang had a rather special situation. He was a direct descendant of the Lu family. Both his parents were core members of the Lu family. However, 10 years ago, Lu Miaoyang's parents perished together in a great battle between the Lu family and the Chen family. Now, only he remained in his household. The Lu family had always felt indebted to him and provided compensation. Now, with this incident, he went directly to the family head, weeping and complaining, making a big fuss. The family head, faced with such a situation, was helpless and thus had Lu Miaoyun send a message to Lu Chongqing, asking how he planned to deal with it. If he could resolve it privately, that would be for the best. Though Lu Miaoyang had unclean motives to begin with, the fact that the 9 netherhound had bitten someone and caused severe injuries was indeed a violation of the Lu family's clan rules. If they were to follow the clan rules, there would be punishment for Lu Changsheng's side. The family head hoped Lu Chongqing would understand. Although I had long anticipated that this day would come, I didn't expect it so soon, Lu Chongqing said, shaking his head slightly. He had known for a long time that as his wives and children increased, these wives and children would inevitably cause trouble for him, the head of the family. He would need to solve and clean up after these troubles. He had also realized that as the Nine Netherhound grew, it became increasingly extraordinary, and could potentially become a target for others. But this cannot be blamed on Pingon and the others. It was Lu Miaoyang who sought trouble first. I had also instructed the Nine Netherhound not to harm people. Now that Lu Miaoyang has been bitten, it shows that he brought it upon himself. Lu Chongqing exhaled lightly. During his many years in the Lu family, he had heard of someone like Lu Miaoyang. He had a bad reputation. He was known for his unruly character. Relying on his parents' legacy and the love of the Lu family ancestor, he had caused quite a few problems within the Lu family. He never thought that his own family would become entangled with such a person. Considering the Lu family's image, if it's just a matter of paying some money to settle it privately, let's try to settle it that way. After reading the letter, Lu Chongqing exhaled slowly, deciding on his course of action. If the other party was willing to let the matter go without making a fuss, he was willing to pay to settle the problem in consideration of the Lu family's reputation. If the other party was to make unreasonable demands, he couldn't possibly just comply. After all, the Lu family owed Lu Miaoyang, but he owed him nothing. Moreover, in Lu Changsheng's view, although the Nine Netherhound had caused severe injury, the beast wasn't to blame. You couldn't possibly still lecture me about excessive defense after traversing to a new world, could you? Lucky for him that this happened within the Lu family. If it had happened outside, dealing with such a matter by killing the other party wouldn't have been too much. After all, the cultivation world is a jungle where the strong prey on the weak. The other party coveted his pet beasts and lured his children. How could there be any reason for that? Furthermore, he had always behaved properly, walking on thin ice and abiding by the rules, for fear of causing trouble. Now that he had gained some strength and confidence, if he continued to shrink back in the face of trouble, then what was the point of his efforts in cultivation? With the increase in strength, a few more ounces of confidence grew in his heart, and Lu Changsheng's attitude also shifted. He was unwilling to be as compromising as before, suffering injustices. His willingness to visit and resolve the matter was already in consideration of the Lu family's face. Immediately, Lu Chongqing put away the letter, went to the courtyard, and spoke to a group of wives. There's a small matter at home, I need to go back. He didn't want to delay. He planned to set off for Jianghu mountain right away and deal with the issue sooner rather than later. Husband, are you rushing back because something happened at home? Lu Qing'er knew that Lu Chongqing usually returned home once every 6 months. His sudden return must mean that something had happened. It's just a small family matter that requires me to make a trip back, said Lu Chongqing with a smile. Then he turned to Xiao Qing and instructed, Xiao Qing, go to the spiritual talisman shop tomorrow and convey a message to Zhang Shan for me. Tell him I had to leave due to urgent matters and that he should look after the shop. Yes, young master, replied Xiao Qing obediently, noting. She often visited the spiritual talisman shop, so she was acquainted with shopkeeper Zhang Shan. Having finished giving instructions, Lu Chongqing then left the Nine Dragons marketplace. He took out an iron feather eagle from his spiritual pet bag and flew towards Jianghu mountain. Chapter 160, Dog-like Thing. Reset _ 2 days later. Outside Jianghu mountain. Lu Chongqing descended from the iron feather eagle and immediately strode towards his home. Chongqing brother. Brother Chongqing. Brother-in-law. Many Lu family disciples greeted Lu Chongqing as they saw him on the road. In the face of such greetings, even if he did not know them, Lu Chongqing wore a smile and exchanged pleasantries graciously. Lu Chongqing must have returned this time because of Lu Miaoyang's incident. Surely, a few days ago, Miaoyang brother was bitten by Chongqing brother's pet beast, and it caused quite a commotion. Naturally, they would require Chongqing brother to come back and deal with it. Who knows how this matter will end up? I, for one, hope that Lu Chongqing can teach Lu Miaoyang a lesson. So do I. My father bought a shop from him 3 years ago, and after all this time, he came back, reneged, and made a fuss. In the end, my father even had to give him spirit stones to settle it down. Alas, there's no helping it. After all, both of Miaoyang brothers' parents died in battle for the family, and the family owes him. Chongqing brother-in-law is a talisman master and is also the son-in-law of the fourth elder. If he really comes to blows with Lu Miaoyang, he has nothing to fear. It's not so simple. What if Lu Miaoyang throws a tantrum and refuses to be reasonable? What can Lu Chongqing do? Lu Chongqing is too nice by nature, always polite and accommodating, and he wouldn't want to offend anyone. In the end, he'll probably just want to keep the peace. You might be right about that. A group of Lu family disciples began discussing amongst themselves after they saw Lu Chongqing leave. They were curious about how the situation between Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoyang would be resolved. Lu Chongqing was not aware of, nor did he care about these discussions, and he continued on his way home briskly. Husband. Lu Miaoyun rushed over as soon as she heard of Lu Changsheng's return. A look of guilt and self-reproach colored her face. In her view, with such a situation having unfolded at home, she, as the legitimate wife, bore some responsibility. After all, she normally managed the domestic affairs of the household. Yuner, what's this? Your face is full of self-reproach. Lu Chongqing immediately took Lu Miaoyang's hand, smiling as he spoke. My place is at home, yet I allowed such a thing to happen. And it has caused you, husband, to make a special trip back. Lu Miaoyun spoke with a tone of deep self-blame. Why blame yourself? It's not your fault. I'll handle this matter. Besides, you have had a difficult time these days. Lu Chongqing cradled Lu Miaoyang's delicate face, speaking warmly. How could he possibly blame Lu Miaoyun for this situation? How could he say she had not properly supervised the children in the house? In his view, the incident was entirely provoked by Lu Miaoyang. It had nothing to do with his own family. Moreover, Lu Pingan and the others were all quite grown up now. They hardly needed adults to watch over them anymore. If one really had to supervise them, with so many children in the house, it would have been impossible to keep an eye on all of them. I came back this time, partly to check on you and the children. Yuner, you've given birth to the child without me by your side, should be the one feeling guilty. Lu Chongqing did not immediately inquire about Lu Miaoyang but rather showed concern for his wife. After all, his wife had recently given birth to their child, during which he was not present. Now that he was back, it was only right to show care and ask about her well-being. Husband, you're always busy with your duties. Lu Miaoyun was visibly moved, her eyes brimming with tender affection and love. Let's set the matter aside for now and go see the child first. Yuner, did you have a boy or a girl this time? Lu Chongqing stood up and asked. Husband, it is a girl. Lu Miaoyun replied, her face radiating happiness at Lu Changsheng's question. A girl is good, she will surely be as adorable as you, Yuner. Lu Chongqing laughed as he said this. He wasn't overly concerned with the gender of the child. In his words, he set off with Lu Miaoyun to visit the newborn child. Upon reaching the inner courtyard, Lu Chongqing visited the children of Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjun. However, looking at the two newborns, he couldn't tell which child possessed the spiritual root. After all, knowing whether a child had the spiritual root entirely depended on the thrill provided by the system's enhancement. And these two children were born around the same time. But after inquiring about the exact birth times of the two children, Lu Chongqing knew. The child with the spiritual root was born to Chu Zhenjun. Lu Miaoyang's child did not possess the spiritual root. For this, Lu Changsheng showed no concern. After all, regardless of which wife or consort bore the child, he strived to treat all equally. Yuner, has the family head mentioned how to deal with Lu Miaoyang's situation? After visiting the child and chatting for a while, Lu Chongqing questioned Lu Miaoyun about the incident. He was preparing to deal with the purpose of his return. The family head hopes for a private resolution if possible. Otherwise, according to the family rules, the incident will affect you negatively in any case. But Miaoyang brother is demanding an exorbitant sum, not showing any intention to negotiate, insisting on a compensation of 500 spirit stones and demanding to be given Ziahe as well. Lu Miaoyun pursed her lips, speaking with a hint of indignation. Ziahe was the name Lu Chongsheng casually gave to the 9 netherhound at home. After all, a humbly named beast is easier to raise. 500 spirit stones, and he even dares to demand Ziahe as compensation. He really has some nerve. Lu Chongsheng chuckled sarcastically. It wasn't just about being bitten. The life of a qi refinement cultivator isn't worth 500 spirit stones. Out in the world, hiring a desperado wouldn't cost 100 spirit stones to take his life. And the audacity to demand the 9 netherhound is simply delusional. If that's his attitude, Lu Chongsheng had no desire to negotiate. Grandmother also thinks that Miaoyang brother is overdoing it. So she wanted me to tell you, husband, that it would be best if Miaoyang brother is willing to settle things amicably. Chapter 161, Dog-like Thing. Reset. If you don't want to deal with it, my husband, you don't have to bother yourself, just let the family head handle it according to the clan rules, Lu Miaoyan spoke, saying so. Though Lu Miaoyang was her cousin, they were not from the same branch of the family and weren't particularly close on a regular basis. Moreover, Lu Miaoyang's behavior was generally unpopular, and Lu Miaoyan didn't have a favorable impression of him. Lu Chongsheng felt a warmth in his heart when he heard this. He also knew that in recent days, Lu Miaoyun and the 4th elder had been worrying about this matter. If it comes to dealing with it according to the clan rules, what would generally happen? He asked aloud. Such incidents are rare within our family. Even if there are disputes, they're usually limited to verbal arguments. It's rare for someone to take action and cause serious injury. So this situation is quite serious. Not only will there be a fine of spirit stones, but the offender will also be sent to perform hard labor. However, grandmother said that since my husband is a talisman master, the family will certainly not send you to perform hard labor. Even if it's settled by the clan rules, it will just be a matter of paying extra spirit stones and a slight reprimand, Lu Miaoyan considered for a moment before speaking thus. In the past few days at home, she naturally hadn't sat by idly. She had even approached Lu Miaoyang, offering to compensate with spirit stones, hoping the other party would agree to a reconciliation. But he was relentless and demanded the 9 netherhound as compensation. Lu Miaoyun, of course, wouldn't agree to such an unreasonable demand. It wasn't just because the 9 netherhound was a pet raised by Lu Chongsheng. The extraordinary qualities of the 9 netherhound alone wouldn't allow for such a course of action. Alright, I understand. Then I'll go talk to Lu Miaoyang again to see if he is willing to make amends. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongsheng more or less understood the situation. Reconciliation would of course be best, otherwise the matter would have to be settled according to the clan rules. Even if it came to a clan ruling, his side would likely suffer a slight loss. Since both Lu Yuanding and the 4th elder had expressed their hope for him to try for a reconciliation, he would have to go through the motions, if only as a formality. My husband, I'll accompany you there, Lu Miaoyun immediately said. No need, I can go by myself, Lu Chongsheng waved his hand and said, can you tell me where Lu Miaoyang lives? Lu Miaoyun did not insist and described the location of Lu Miaoyang's residence to Lu Chongsheng. Just when Lu Chongsheng was about to leave, Lu Lanshu came along with Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila, a few of the little ones, to see Lu Chongsheng. This matter involved the youngsters, and had caused such a stir that Lu Chongsheng, as the head of the family, had come back. Lu Lanshu, as their mother, naturally brought the little ones to see Lu Chongsheng. At the moment, the little ones were looking at Lu Chongsheng with some evasion in their eyes, slightly bowing their heads, obviously aware that they had caused trouble. What's with you all? The matter is not your fault, why are you looking like this? Seeing this, Lu Chongqing chuckled. He crouched down and gently ruffled the children's hair, speaking softly. As far as he was concerned, the matter was certainly not the children's fault. How could he scold them? And seeing how the children looked, he guessed that Lu Lanshu had also chided them. Dad, you're not blaming us? Upon hearing this, Lu Pingan looked up at Lu Chongqing and mumbled. The other little ones also looked at Lu Chongqing. Why should I blame you? Lu Chongqing laughed. We caused trouble for you, Dad, Lu Pingan said. Was this trouble something you brought upon yourselves? Lu Chongqing asked. Not at all, it was that mean person who wanted to snatch Xiaohe, and he called names, Lu Shila immediately complained indignantly. That's clear, then. If he wanted to snatch Xiaohe and also resorted to insults, then the fault lies with him. Dad has always taught you to avoid trouble and keep out of it, but that doesn't mean we should be afraid of it. If trouble comes our way, leave it to Dad to handle, Lu Chongqing said in a gentle tone. He also realized that in some respects, he hadn't taught them well. Thinking that the children should grow up safely and securely in the mortal world, he had instilled in them the idea of staying out of trouble whenever possible. Besides, the children were mostly raised by their mothers. Lu Miaoyun was not too bad, but Lu Lanshu and the other wives were worldly women of the Lu family. Coming to Jianghu Mountain, they ultimately felt some restraint. Even though his status as a husband had improved, they still felt somewhat inferior in Jianghu Valley. So they had always told the children not to cause trouble or stir up issues, which would inevitably affect them. If the Lu family ancestor were to live another 10 years, I'm guessing the Lu family would face turmoil in about 5 or 6 years. If I were to flee, I would have to ensure my wives and children are well settled. Pingan and the others are almost of age, they can be sent to the mortal world in a year or two, where education must be properly arranged. Otherwise, if things continue this way, there could be problems with the children's education, Lu Chongqing pondered inwardly. He had always been conscious of issues regarding the children's education. While he didn't exactly resonate with the saying born in the deep palace and raised by women's hands, he was very clear in his heart. Given the rate at which he was fathering children, with so many in tow, leaving them in their mother's care was likely to breed problems. He had to have a complete training and education system for the children. But now, being in Nine Dragons Market with a pile of daily affairs, plus having so many children, he truly was too busy to manage their education. Moreover, Lu Chongqing did not believe that his own teaching was necessarily correct or that he could do it well. His actions and thoughts were heavily influenced by his previous life, and having lived in this world for many years, he was gradually merging with its dog-eat-dog moral rules. Chapter 162, Dog-like Thing. Reset. It may not necessarily be suitable for educating one's own child. Therefore, Lu Chongqing prepared to establish a child education system within the secular world, and then gradually perfect it. Dad, I understand. Lu Pingan immediately nodded vigorously. Thank you, Father. Dad is the best. The two little ones beside him, Lu Wuyo and Lu Shila, immediately smiled happily and gave Lu Chongqing a kiss. Ha ha ha, if Dad isn't good to you, then who am I good to? Lu Chongqing also wore a full smile. The birth of these children, although due to his own selfishness and utilitarian purposes, had now also become one of his motivations to strive hard. Did you get hurt at the time? At this moment, Lu Chongqing suddenly remembered what Lu Miaoyun had written in her letter, that Lu Miaoyang, in a fit of shameful rage, intended to harm the children, and that was when the Nine Netherhound intervened. He was cursing at people, and when Brother Pingan called him out on it, he lifted Brother Pingan up, and Xiaohe bit him. Lu Shila immediately said. Pingan, he even laid hands on you? Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke in a gentle voice. Originally, he had thought about settling the matter amicably for the sake of the Lu family's face. After all, maintaining peace is best. But now, Hearing that Lu Miaoyang had laid hands on his own children, he was not willing to let it go. This matter was clearly not his fault to begin with. It was Lu Miaoyang who had actively sought trouble. And in seeking trouble, he bullied his own children and expected him to apologize? How unreasonable. Dad, I'm fine. Lu Pingon scratched his head and grinned. That's good then. If something like this happens again in the future, just come and tell Dad. Lu Chongsheng nodded slightly upon hearing these words. If Lu Miaoyang had actually injured Lu Pingon, then the matter would be a different story. I got it, Dad. The young one said with beaming smiles. After making sure the children were happy and letting them go play, Lu Chongsheng excused himself to his wives and concubines and went out to find Lu Miaoyang. A quarter of an hour later, Lu Chongsheng arrived in front of an estate. I am Lu Chongsheng, here to see Lu Miaoyang. Lu Chongsheng knocked on the door and spoke to the butler who opened it. So it is young Master Chongsheng, please come in. There weren't many people in Jianghu Valley, and this butler naturally recognized Lu Chongsheng and promptly invited him inside. After ushering Lu Chongsheng into the hall and serving him tea, the butler politely said, Young Master Chongsheng, please wait a moment while I fetch young Master Yang. Thank you. Lu Chongsheng responded with a slight nod. Inside a courtyard within the estate, a young man wrapped in bandages lay on a lounge chair. A beautiful woman beside him was tenderly feeding him fruits. Young Master Yang, Lu Chongsheng has come seeking you. At this moment, the butler came to the courtyard and announced. Oh. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyang, who lay on the chair, indifferently replied, Fine, bring him over. Young Master Yang, is this really appropriate? The butler questioned. Having a guest come straight to a small courtyard clearly went against the principle of proper hospitality. Are you teaching me how to handle my affairs? Lu Miaoyang's tone cooled several degrees. Yes. The butler, recognizing the temperament of his young master, said no more and merely sighed softly. Shortly after, the butler returned to the hall. Young Master Chongsheng, my young Master Yang is injured and movement is somewhat inconvenient for him, would you please join him in the small courtyard for a chat? The butler bowed slightly and spoke politely. All right. Lu Chongsheng chuckled lightly upon hearing this. Young Master Chongsheng, this way please. The butler maintained his courteous demeanor. Following the butler, Lu Chongsheng arrived at a tranquil courtyard where the architecture was adorned with swaying bamboo. As he walked into the courtyard, he immediately saw a young man being served spirit fruits while reclining in his chair. Although he had not met the person before, Lu Chongsheng knew that this must be Lu Miaoyang. Young Master Yang, young Master Chongsheng has arrived. The butler announced with a bow. Lu Miaoyang hummed softly. Then he propped himself up a little and looked towards Lu Chongsheng, his mouth curving upwards as he said, Lu Chongsheng, I'm very happy you could come. The family has already reached a public verdict on this matter, and I can't be bothered to argue with you. Your dog has bitten me, and you must hand it over to me for disposal, and also compensate me with 500 spirit stones, otherwise, this matter won't end peacefully. Lu Miaoyang said with an arrogant air. Lu Chongsheng frowned upon hearing this and said, Are you out of your mind? He had come over without any real intention of reconciliation. He thought to just go through the motions to see how the other party would react. Now facing Lu Miaoyang's haughty attitude, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but want to teach him a lesson. After all, since the Nine Netherhound had bitten someone and a person was injured, the family rules called for judgment. Therefore, if he beat him up, it wouldn't matter at this point. Lu Miaoyang was caught off guard, and his face turned dark as he said, Lu Chongsheng, what do you mean by that? I'm saying that you must have a problem in your head. And also, when did I ever say that I came to apologize and make amends with you? Lu Chongsheng stepped forward, his tone indifferent. At these words, Lu Miaoyang's eyes bulged, and his face turned a mix of blue and red. He hadn't expected Lu Changsheng to dare talk to him in such a manner. Furiously, he slapped the armrest and stood up, bellowing, "Lu Changsheng, how dare you speak to me like this? You are nothing but an in-law of the Lu family. Without us taking you in, who knows where you'd be? You really think becoming a son-in-law of the Lu family makes you a phoenix on a branch? Daring to speak to me in such a way?" However, before he could finish speaking, Lu Changsheng had already approached him. Without giving him a chance to react, he reached out with a hand swift as thunder and latched onto Lu Miayang's neck, hoisting him high up in the air. Chapter 163, Dog-like Thing. Reset, _4 Then, with a swift raise of his right hand, he fiercely slapped Lu Miaoyang across the face with a loud smack. "To talk to you like this? And just who do you think you are? Like a dog, not only do I dare to speak to you this way, but I dare to hit you. To bully my son and act so arrogantly, expecting me to apologize to you, do you really think I, Lu Changsheng, am someone people can push around?" With every word, Lu Changsheng's palms relentlessly struck out. His cultivation of the 100 refinements treasure body art was not in vain. With each slap, resounding with sharp smacks, Lu Miaoyang saw stars, and he groaned in pain. His cheeks visibly turned swiftly from purple to black to red and swollen, with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. The nearby steward and the beautiful woman were stunned, unable to process the scene before them. They had not expected that upon Lu Changsheng's arrival, he would start hitting their young master without a word, taking him in hand with slaps. "Young Master Changsheng, please, no more, spare him," the steward immediately came back to his senses and shouted in horror. He hurried over to Lu Changsheng's side, trying to stop him. "Humph!" With a cold snort, Lu Changsheng ceased his assault and flung Lu Miaoyang to the side with a fierce throw. Thump! Lu Miaoyang hit the ground hard, letting out a muffled groan, his face swollen and bruised black and red, spitting out teeth and blood. To bully a child at your age, to lay hands on a 6 or 7-year-old child, how utterly shameless. Since no one has disciplined you before, then let me teach you a lesson. With an indifferent expression, Lu Changsheng gazed down from above at Lu Miaoyang sprawled on the ground, rebuking him coldly. Lu Miaoyang was completely stunned by Lu Changsheng's slaps. He never could have anticipated that Lu Changsheng would disrespect him like this and actually strike him. If it weren't for the burning pain on his face and body, he would have thought himself to be dreaming. At this moment, a mix of unspeakable humiliation, frustration, and rage surged up, leaving his body trembling. His eyes became bloodshot, and with a shaky voice, he roared, "Lu Changsheng, you. I'm going to kill you." As his words fell, a golden flying sword appeared, streaking through the air like a rainbow, its sword chi flickering, hurtling towards Lu Changsheng. "Young Master Yang, no, don't do it." The steward, in a panic, shouted when he saw this. As he spoke, spiritual power surged, casting a water shield art to intercept the golden flying sword. But his cultivation was merely at the 4th level of energy refinement. The hastily cast water shield art stood no chance against the sharpness of the flying sword, and it shattered in the blink of an eye. Clang! At the same moment, in a split second, Lu Changsheng slapped his storage bag, and his green-face sword, gleaming like a flash of light, unsheathed to clash with the golden flying sword, sparks flying everywhere, ringing with a metallic clang. "Kill me? My flying sword is not less sharp either." Lu Changsheng, maneuvering his flying sword, did not want to reveal his true cultivation level. He took out a stack of talismans from his hand and said with a cold stare at Lu Miaoyang. "Please, young Master Changsheng, calm your anger." Seeing this, the steward shouted anxiously, fearing Lu Changsheng might start another round of violence. Lu Miaoyang was already injured. With so many talismans in Lu Changsheng's hands, if the two truly fought, Lu Miaoyang would stand no chance. And considering Lu Changsheng's immediate slapping of Lu Miaoyang upon arrival, it was clear he was not as good-tempered or gentle as the rumors suggested. Today's visit was not about reconciliation but rather to seek a vendetta. If a fight did break out, without restraint, it could indeed end in death. No matter what, if the two started fighting and the situation escalated, the consequences would be dire. The steward could not bear such responsibility. Seeing the stack of talismans in Lu Changsheng's hand, a look of fear and envy appeared in Lu Miaoyang's eyes. A thought of retreating grew within him. But the pain on his face. The anger of being humiliated in such a manner. The suffocation and shame in his heart made his mind frantic. Lu Miaoyang, as a direct descendant of the Lu family, had always had his way. When his parents were alive, he was taken care of by them. Even after the death of his parents, he was protected by their inheritance. And now, to be insulted and slapped like a dog by a son-in-law of peasant origin. If word of this got out, not only would he lose all face, but he would also become a laughingstock within the Lu family. Lu Changsheng, just try to kill me, bellowed Lu Miaoyang, his eyes bloodshot and his neck rigid with fury. Swoosh! In an instant, a rush of air sliced through the silence. The green-faced sword, like flowing waters of Qiushui, its golden aura streaming, sword chi swirling, aimed at Lu Miaoyang. The sword's tip rested on Lu Miaoyang's neck. Yet, under the edge of the sword chi, a long, bloody gash had already appeared on Lu Miaoyang's neck, with blood beginning to flow. Chapter 164, Let's see if my flying sword is sharp. Reset, _1, if you have the guts to say that again, I'll grant your wish and let you test the sharpness of my flying sword. Lu Changsheng's expression was cold as he spoke to Lu Miaoyang. Changsheng, my lad. Changsheng, my lad. Don't do this. The steward, seeing this scene and the green-faced sword hanging in front of Lu Miaoyang, its blade flickering unpredictably, cried out in panic to Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng remained silent, only watching Lu Miaoyang with an expression of icy indifference. At that moment, Lu Miaoyang didn't dare to speak either. He could clearly feel the flying sword hanging at his neck. He could feel the chilling sword chi, causing a piercing pain at his throat. With just a thought from Lu Changsheng's mental spirit, this flying sword would pierce through his neck in an instant, taking his life. Moreover, Lu Changsheng's imposing manner gave him a feeling. If he yelled again, the other party might really dare to kill him, would actually kill him. Although he felt extremely stifled, humiliated, and furious inside, the current shadow of death still made him instinctively want to back down, to feel fear. He feared that Lu Changsheng might truly strike him down with a sword. Worthless trash. Although I, Lu Changsheng, came from humble origins and entered the Lu family as a son-in-law, now, I am no longer the son-in-law of the past. Over the years, my conduct in the Lu family has been beyond reproach. You provoked trouble on your own, bullied my son, sought to take away my pet beasts, and you expect me to apologize and reconcile with you, how ludicrous. If you dare to pester further, just like this table. Seeing the other party showing signs of fear, Lu Changsheng shouted coldly. As his words fell, the green-faced sword that was hanging at Lu Miaoyang's throat let out a buzz sound, striking the stone table next to them like thunder and lightning. Instantly, the stone table was sliced open like tofu, split in two. Having said that, Lu Changsheng gave Lu Miaoyang a cold look, sheathed his green-faced sword, and strode out of the courtyard. He was on guard against Lu Miaoyang. Considering that the other party was a member of the Lu family disciples, he had already given him a chance. If the other party dared to take any action at this point, he would, as he had said, strike him down with his sword. After all, he now possessed the strength and confidence to do so. The strength and confidence to not be constrained by the rules of the Lu family. If things really got out of hand, he could take this opportunity to choose to leave the Lu family. Although leaving the Lu family right now was somewhat improper. It was neither a good time nor a good choice. But he didn't need to be unfairly subjected to this kind of thing anymore. Moreover, Lu Chongqing felt that sometimes, a little demonstration of power, being tough, was a good thing. Because this way, others would know your temperament, your background, and that you're not someone they can easily manipulate, making them more considerate in their actions. If he always appeared gentle, it wouldn't necessarily be a good thing in many situations. Of course, the precondition was that one needed the strength to back it up. Without real strength, all would be empty talk. Gulp. Lu Miaoyang, watching Lu Changsheng's retreating figure, wanted to say something, to do something, but ultimately he just lowered his head and couldn't help swallowing nervously. The stabbing pain in his throat had frightened him. He truly feared that Lu Chongqing might cut him down with a sword. And the steward, seeing this scene and Lu Changsheng's departure, also couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He quickly helped Lu Miaoyang up and asked, "Young Master Yang, are you all right? Do I look all right to you? You actually dared to stop me just now." Lu Miaoyang roared in fury. "Young Master Yang, this Lu Chongqing is now valued by our family. Why must you offend him?" The steward said with a sigh, seeing his young master's state. He had practically watched Lu Miaoyang grow up and truly did not wish for Lu Miaoyang to continue like this. Everything is still okay within the Lu family, for they always remember the kindness of his parents who fought and died for the family. But once away from the Lu family, it's easy to suffer losses, great losses. You still want to lecture me, to teach me how to do things. Lu Miaoyang bellowed, then, looking at the fading figure of Lu Chongqing, his eyes filled with poisonous malice and murderous intent. "Lu Chongqing, the shame of today, I will surely make you pay back 1,000, no, 100,000-fold one day." For him, the humiliation of this moment couldn't be washed away even with the water from the 3 rivers and 5 lakes. This vengeance, he would not rest until death. After leaving Lu Miaoyang's residence, Lu Chongqing went directly to visit Lu Yuanding. After all, the man had been beaten. The act was over. Naturally, he had to tell the family head about Lu Miaoyang's actions. And to see how Lu Yuanding, the patriarch of the Lu family, would handle this matter. A quarter of an hour later, Lu Chongqing arrived at Lu Yuanding's residence. However, Lu Yuanding was not there, he was busy. After waiting for about the time it took to finish a pot of tea, Lu Yuanding arrived. "Chongqing, you've come because of Miaoyang's matter, haven't you?" Lu Yuanding quickly entered the hall and immediately addressed Lu Chongqing upon seeing him. "Yes, Patriarch, I have come to apologize to you," Lu Chongqing nodded and said. "You shouldn't blame yourself for this matter, it was Miaoyang who was at fault from the start." Lu Yuanding let out a slight sigh and said. "Don't worry, even if we go by the family rules, I will argue for a lenient punishment for you," Lu Yuanding said with a faint sigh. As a family head, the most difficult thing to handle was these internal family affairs. Especially when it involved people like Lu Miaoyang and Lu Chongqing, who were both in somewhat special situations. One's parents had both died in battle, shedding blood for the family. The other, although part of the Lu family, had not been with the family long enough. He hadn't been fully integrated or accepted yet. So, with such an incident occurring, it was also difficult for him to handle. He hoped, if possible, to have Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoyang reconcile so that the issue could be resolved and put behind them. "Patriarch, I came here to apologize because I sought Lu Miaoyang out to reconcile, but in a moment of anger, I ended up giving him a beating." Chapter 165, Let's see if my flying sword is sharp. Reset, Lu Chongqing spoke up, directly saying, "What, you beat up Lu Miaoyang?" Lu Yuanding, upon hearing this, was stunned and completely baffled. In his impression, Lu Chongqing had always been an honest and steady person. This could be seen from his behavior in the Lu family over the years. Aside from marrying and taking concubines to bear children, he never stirred up trouble or quarreled. Even with a good talent in the talisman path and becoming a talisman master, he never displayed arrogance or entitlement. This was the point that pleased them most about Lu Changsheng. Yet at this moment, Lu Changsheng actually said that, in a fit of anger, he had beaten up Lu Miaoyang. This was something Lu Yuanding had never expected. For a while, he did not know what would be best to say. After all, he had asked Lu Changsheng to return, hoping to calm things down as much as possible. But with such a turn of events, there was no chance for reconciliation. Yes, family head, Lu Changsheng nodded calmly in agreement. You were a bit impulsive there. Lu Yuanding said with a bit of a headache. Originally, he had discussed this matter with the fourth elder and several family elders. If Lu Miaoyang persisted in causing trouble and refused to let go, they would deal with it according to the family rules and be lenient. To give Lu Miaoyang and the family an explanation. They also planned to have the fourth elder step in to appease Lu Changsheng's side. But now that Lu Changsheng had beaten Lu Miaoyang again, he felt it was difficult to deal with Lu Miaoyang and feared things would not calm down easily. Family head, I don't think I was impulsive. My son is not in the wrong here, so asking me to apologize and offer compensation, I cannot do. Moreover, Lu Miaoyang showed no intention of reconciling, acting superior. Am I expected to just swallow my pride and say nothing? Lu Changsheng said out loud. Sigh. Lu Yuanding, hearing this, let out a sigh. Looking at the stern-faced Lu Changsheng before him, he understood that as a parent, how could anyone stay calm and composed in such a situation? He pondered for a moment before saying, Changsheng, I understand how you feel. Since it has already happened, let's leave it at that. I will handle this matter according to the family rules and will not show favoritism to anyone. If you have any issues, you can talk to me directly, please don't act impulsively again. One can't accomplish anything without following rules. Now that you are a member of our Lu family, you must also act according to the rules. I hope you can understand and be aware of that. Lu Yuanding's tone softened a bit. Family head, I understand, Lu Changsheng nodded. He had a very good impression of the patriarch of the Lu family, who had brought him to the Lu family, and knew that Lu Yuanding had a difficult role. He wouldn't make things difficult for him. If the Lu family was willing to handle things impartially, he would naturally accept it. If they were unwilling to handle things impartially, then his relationship with the Lu family would also end there. As for the Lu family, the kindness of the fourth elder would have to be repaid later. Alright, as long as you understand. You can go back now, I will handle this situation, Lu Yuanding said. Seeing Lu Changsheng's response, he smiled and nodded, and patted his shoulder. Family head, then I will take my leave. Since the other party was courteous, Lu Changsheng naturally returned the courtesy and bowed his hands in respect. Phew. Once Lu Changsheng had left, Lu Yuanding tapped his fingers on the table and let out a long sigh. It really is a troublesome autumn. Husband, how did it go? When Lu Changsheng returned to his own home, Lu Miaoyan immediately came forward to inquire how the meeting went. I beat up Lu Miaoyang, Lu Changsheng did not hide anything and said directly. After all, there was nothing to hide about the matter. He estimated that by tomorrow, or the day after, the issue would blow up, and Lu Miaoyan would naturally find out. Ah! Lu Miaoyan was taken aback when she heard Lu Changsheng's words, her red lips slightly parting in surprise, finding it hard to believe. She hadn't expected that her husband, who went to reconcile with Lu Miaoyang, ended up beating him up instead. To her, and in the eyes of their wives and concubines, Lu Changsheng had always been mild-mannered and easygoing. Over the years, she had never seen Lu Changsheng argue or get angry with anyone. Now that he had actually beaten Lu Miaoyang, she found it inconceivable. It's done, and that's that. Miaoyang has always been difficult, and not many people like him, usually relying on the legacy of benevolence from his parents to lord over the family. Lu Miaoyun immediately spoke up indignantly, standing firmly by Lu Changsheng's side. She felt that if her husband had struck someone, it must have been because Lu Miaoyang was too overbearing. Otherwise, with her husband's disposition, how could he possibly resort to violence? Yuner, don't you think I was a bit impulsive in this matter? Lu Changsheng asked, somewhat surprised by Lu Miaoyun's words. He wasn't worried about anything else regarding hitting someone, but he was concerned that it might be hard for Lu Miaoyun and the fourth elder. Husband has always been gentle and never gets upset with anyone. It surely must have been because Miaoyang went too far that you had to act, Lu Miaoyun said and then looked towards Lu Changsheng. Husband, you're not hurt, are you? No, Lu Miaoyang's cultivation level isn't high, and he was injured, so there's no way he could have hurt me when we fought, Lu Changsheng immediately replied with a laugh, his mood lifting considerably. If his wife had advised him about being impulsive or something, he would have understood, but unavoidably, he would have felt a bit displeased inside. Now that his wife didn't hesitate to support him and was concerned about him, it made him feel quite content. Yuner, hypothetically speaking, if I decide to leave the Lu family one day, what would you do? Lu Changsheng let out a deep breath, appearing nonchalant as he inquired. He hadn't decided to leave the Lu family. However, the situation with the Lu family ancestor and the circumstance of the Lu family meant he had to be prepared for this possibility, ready to escape at any moment. Chapter 166, Let's see if my flying sword is sharp. Reset. After all, if I were to leave the Lu family, I certainly couldn't go alone. I'd have to make arrangements for my wives, concubines, and children to be taken along. But there's an unavoidable issue when it comes to leaving the Lu family, and that's the matter of the wives and concubines. People like Chu Zhenjin are naturally easy to talk to, but it would be difficult to say the same about Lu family's daughters like Lu Miaoyun, Lu Lanshu, Lu Zier, Lu Qing'er, and so on. Especially Lu Miaoyun. Originally, when the Lu family, the fourth elder gave Lu Miaoyun to me in marriage, it was to bind me to the Lu family. Now, if I wished to leave, it would certainly put my wife in a difficult position and create a hard choice. When Lu Miaoyun heard this, she was slightly startled. She immediately assumed that Lu Changsheng was feeling aggrieved because of the matter with Lu Miaoyang. Worried about the incident involving Lu Miaoyang, she said softly, "Husband, don't overthink it. Let's just tell Grandma, and it won't be a big deal. I've already spoken with the family head, and I believe the family head will have a decision." Lu Changsheng said with a smile. After the fight, he didn't seek out the fourth elder but went directly to Lu Yuanding because he didn't want to put the fourth elder in a difficult position, and he didn't want to trouble someone else to clean up his mess. "Oh dear, husband, you think too much. Just go and talk to Grandma," Lu Miaoyun insisted, coyly dragging Lu Changsheng to see the fourth elder. All right, let's go," Lu Changsheng said helplessly, smiling as he left with Lu Miaoyun. He had a good idea of what Lu Miaoyun's attitude was. He guessed that unless it was a certain situation, Lu Miaoyun would definitely want to keep him in the Lu family as much as possible. Sigh, he sighed inwardly. He knew leaving the Lu family wasn't going to be that simple. Having been with the Lu family for so many years, what bound him was no longer just a piece of paper. There were also the many Lu family wives and concubines, and the Lu family's kindness towards him. Lu Changsheng was not a heartless, selfish person. His heart clearly distinguished between gratitude and resentment. He couldn't simply leave abruptly and decisively at the moment when the Lu family was about to face a crisis. Although the Lu family, the fourth elder, was good to him because he was valuable, in any case, over the years, the Lu family had treated him well and never wronged him. In such a situation, now that the Lu family was facing an impending crisis, if he were to leave at once, he would indeed struggle with it internally. This matter isn't urgent. The affair concerning the Lu family ancestor still has many years to go. As long as the Lu family has another foundation establishment cultivator emerge, these problems won't exist anymore, and I can keep living peacefully in the Lu family. Moreover, as time goes by, my strength and methods can continue to improve. As long as I have the power, many difficulties and problems will be easily resolved at that time. Lu Chongqing thought privately, not dwelling too much on this subject. Suddenly, the two arrived at the residence of the fourth elder. Chongqing, Miaoyun, what brings you here? The fourth elder queried quickly upon learning of their arrival. She was dressed in a deep cyan garment of simple elegance, her black hair meticulously coiffed and adorned with a jade hairpin, exuding a demeanor of dignified grace. Grandma, Lu Miaoyun immediately approached, took the fourth elder's hand, and began relating the events. Chongqing, since the incident has already happened, you don't need to worry about this matter, nor should you dwell on it, the fourth elder said warmly after listening to Lu Miaoyun. Leave it to Grandma to handle the family side of things. At this moment, a flicker of anger rose in her heart. From her years of interaction, she could see that Lu Chongqing was a person who valued emotions. He had begun to feel a sense of belonging to the Lu family and was gradually integrating into it. Yet now, with Lu Miaoyang causing such a commotion, the resulting situation led to thoughts of leaving the Lu family in Lu Changsheng's mind, which could not but infuriate her. Others may not realize it, but as an elder of the Lu family, she was very aware of the current situation. To say that it was the calm before the storm was no overstatement. It was a time when unity was needed to overcome the impending crisis. How could she allow Lu Chongqing, a talisman master with exceptional talent, to harbor grievances and thoughts of departure? After all, it was virtually certain that Lu Chongqing would become a second-rank talisman master in the future. It was just a matter of time. If he could stay with the Lu family indefinitely, he would certainly become one of the core high-level members in the future. Grandma, sorry to bother you, Lu Chongqing said, cracking a smile. He had only casually asked Lu Miaoyun a question, kind of as a precautionary measure. But now, through Lu Miaoyun's actions, he had inadvertently given the fourth elder the wrong impression, leading her to believe he was really leaving the Lu family. But this matter now was not something he could explain away. Even if he made it clear it was just a casual question, she wouldn't believe it. You are family, there's no need to be so formal with Grandma. If you ever feel wronged, you can tell Grandma directly. Don't ever keep it to yourself, the fourth elder continued saying, with a kindly expression and a gentle tone. No, how could I feel wronged? Lu Chongqing said somewhat helplessly, not wishing to linger on the topic any longer. Then, as if remembering something, he spoke up, speaking of which, Grandma, not long ago I was on the verge of successfully crafting a superior grade talisman, but I always fell just short, and I couldn't manage to successfully create one. Now that I have time, I'd like to ask for your guidance. Lu Chongqing said. It had been nearly 2 months since he revealed himself as a middle-grade talisman master, and according to his plan, he was going to reveal himself as a superior-grade talisman master on his next return, which would be in 3 months. But now that he was back and such an incident had occurred, Lu Chongqing thought it might be a good idea to advance the reveal of his superior-grade talisman master status slightly. Chapter 167, Let's see if my flying sword is sharp. Reset, _41 is for making it convenient for himself to act and perform in the future. He would be able to put the superior grade talismans in the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop for sale in an open and proper manner. Additionally, it was also to give himself more significance when the Lu family dealt with this matter, so as not to make it too difficult for the fourth elder. What, Chongqing, you almost succeeded in making a superior grade talisman? The fourth elder couldn't help but feel moved upon hearing this, her face showing surprise. Even though she had been keeping an eye on Lu Changsheng's progress in talisman making, at this moment, hearing that Lu Chongqing almost succeeded in crafting a first-grade superior talisman was still shocking. After all, in talisman making, the gap between middle-grade and superior-grade talismans can be considered a hurdle. Many people are unable to overcome this hurdle in their lifetimes. And Lu Chongsheng had just come into contact with superior-grade talismans 3 months ago. Now, he was only a little bit away from success, which was understandably surprising to her. Once he succeeded, Lu Chongsheng would truly be considered a superior-grade talisman master. The gap between middle-grade and superior-grade talismans is a hurdle. There is a distinct difference in identity status between middle-grade and superior-grade talisman masters. Middle-grade talisman masters can find a way to make a living anywhere and live comfortably. But if one becomes a superior-grade talisman master, capable of steadily crafting a type of superior-grade talisman, it is enough to join many forces using this craft. To become a distinguished guest, a guest elder. Even within the Lu family, it is the same. If Lu Chongsheng were to be promoted to superior-grade talisman master, his identity status within the Lu family would also take another step forward. Lu Miaoyun, standing by his side, couldn't help but look towards her husband, her beautiful eyes sparkling with light. Amazed at the talent her husband exhibited on the talisman path, she felt astonishment. She recalled that when she married Lu Chongsheng, he had only recently become a middle-grade talisman master. Now, less than 2 months short of 3 years later, Lu Chongsheng was about to become a superior-grade talisman master, and she couldn't help but feel astounded. Didn't it take Sister Miaoga over 5 years to go from middle-grade talisman master to superior-grade talisman master? Lu Miaoyun lightly bit her lip, considering a reference comparison in her mind. However, such a comparison made her even more aware of her husband's astounding talent on the talisman path, and her eyes looking towards Lu Chongsheng were full of admiration and worship. Yes, just a little bit more, but I can't seem to get past it, Lu Chongsheng nodded and said. Draw one now for Grandma to see, the fourth elder immediately said. All right, Lu Chongsheng stood up at once and moved to the table. He took out his middle-grade magic artifact talisman pen and talisman-making materials from his storage bag and began to craft the talisman. The fourth elder stood by his side quietly observing. Seeing this, Lu Miaoyun dared not make a sound to disturb her husband, quietly standing aside and watching. Pft. Just as Lu Chongsheng was seriously drawing the superior-grade golden light barrier talisman with careful strokes, reaching about 80 to 90% completion, suddenly there was a disruption in his spiritual mechanism, the lines became chaotic, causing blue smoke to rise from the talisman paper. There's no problem with your tracing of the talisman lines, but your control over your spiritual power is not precise enough. At this point, and these few turning points, there are minor imperfections leading to a chain reaction, which ultimately results in the failure of the talisman. The fourth elder, having watched, immediately pointed out the problems. Come, feel my spiritual power. She immediately stepped forward, holding Lu Chongsheng's palm, and guided him to slowly draw the golden light barrier talisman with gradual movements. At this point, you need to tighten your spiritual power, but at this turning point you have to slide past quickly, then carry a bit of a bounce feel. When you get here, the speed needs to be fast, otherwise it will lead to an accumulation of spiritual power, just like you accumulated earlier. The fourth elder taught him hand in hand, speaking softly. A golden light barrier talisman was then successfully crafted. Now, Chongsheng, you try again. The fourth elder let go of his hand, speaking kindly to Lu Chongsheng. All right, Lu Chongsheng nodded, took a deep breath, and put on a somewhat nervous and earnest facade. He then took a couple of sips from the white jade 100 flowers wine. This had become a habit he had developed under the fourth elder's tutelage in talisman making. One was to show people that his own cultivation level was too low and his spiritual power insufficient. The other was that white jade 100 flowers wine had a heart-clearing and mind-calming effect. For the process of talisman making, which consumed a great deal of mental spirit, it could help varyingly from person to person. After he had made his preparations, Lu Chongsheng held the talisman brush with a serious expression, completely focused as he began to slowly draw the talisman. The process was slow and steady. The fourth elder and Lu Miaoyun both watched quietly, without making a sound. Just as Lu Changxing finished the last stroke, a golden light spread out on the paper, a buzzing sound occurred, then the golden light converged and the talisman solidified. A first-grade superior-grade talisman, the Golden Light Barrier Talisman, complete. Good. 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 The fourth elder, upon seeing the talisman complete, was extremely surprised and joyfully praised it repeatedly. Congratulations, husband. Lu Miaoyun, witnessing this scene, was also full of joy, her beautiful eyes shimmering with delight. Phew. Lu Changxing, also somewhat exhausted, exhaled deeply, a surprised and happy smile appearing on his face as he turned to the fourth elder and said, "All thanks to Grandma's teaching and guidance. Changxing, you don't need to be modest. In drawing superior-grade talismans, you're only one step away from success," the fourth elder said with gratification and joy. Then, picking up the talisman and gently touching it, she voiced, "Changxing, you were still not precise enough with the spiritual power in these several parts, leading to a somewhat weak spiritual mechanism afterward. However, now that you have entered the door, Grandma believes that as long as you familiarize and practice more, you will be able to fully master it." The fourth elder continued pointing out places where problems lay. "Yes, Grandma," Lu Changxing nodded. This, of course, was intentional on his part. To make the talisman appear as though it was barely a success due to luck. He did not continue drawing proficiently. After all, the image he portrayed to the outside was that he had only recently broken through to the 5th level of qi refinement. Creating 2 superior-grade talismans was about enough. At this moment, the housekeeper, Granny Zijou, arrived in the hall with Lu Bo. "Changxing, the family head wants you to come with me to the family ancestral hall," Lu Bo hurriedly said upon seeing Lu Changxing. "The family ancestral hall?" "All right," Lu Changxing, hearing this, immediately knew it had to do with Lu Miaoyang. He hadn't expected it to be so soon, he thought it would be tomorrow or the day after. However, upon hearing this, the fourth elder frowned and said, "Why would you go to the family ancestral hall?" Although Lu Changxing's issue with Lu Miaoyang was to be dealt with by family rules, it shouldn't have escalated to involve the family ancestral hall. Alas, young Master Yang suddenly ran inside the ancestral hall, hugging his parents' memorial tablets and wailing that Changxing was trying to kill him, insisting that the family head handle the matter publicly in the hall. With a deep sigh and a sense of helplessness, Lu Bo explained. What a piece of work! Lu Changxing also couldn't help being startled upon hearing this. He was speechless in his mind, finding Lu Miaoyang to be quite a character, having directly run to the Lu family ancestral hall and clung to his parents' memorial tablets to lament. No wonder Lu Miaoyang was usually so arrogant in the Lu family. With such a move, who could stand against him? "Let's go, Changxing. Grandma will accompany you there." The fourth elder, at this moment, was also rather speechless, unsure how to comment on Lu Miaoyang's actions. Chapter 168, Lu Family Ancestor, the one with great destiny. Reset, _1 Lu Changxing followed the fourth elder to the Lu family shrine in the deepest part of Qingzhou Valley. This was his first time visiting the Lu family shrine. After all, such a place was considered forbidden territory for the Lu family, and entry was not normally permitted. The Lu family shrine here was very quiet. The shrine didn't cover a very large area. It didn't look particularly magnificent, it was quite simple. But it exuded a solemn and ancient air of seriousness. Upon entering the main gate of the shrine, Lu Changxing saw ancient trees reaching for the sky, and luxuriant jade-green bamboo. In the midst of solemn solemnity, there was a simple and profound feeling of tranquility. But now, the air of solemnity was shattered by wailing cries. "Woo woo woo, Dad, Mom. You left and now it's just me, Yang, alone, letting an outsider bully me." Lu Changxing immediately recognized that this voice belonged to Lu Miaoyang. For a moment, he couldn't associate this aggrieved voice with the arrogant demeanor of Lu Miaoyang he had seen before. That Lu Miaoyang, he's not brainless at all, he's completely fearless because he has something to rely on. Lu Chongqing couldn't help but lament in his heart. Before, he thought Lu Miaoyang was a brainless, pampered young master. But judging from this performance, he felt Lu Miaoyang had the confidence, certain that the Lu family would be biased in his favor. How dare such clamor disrupt the land of our ancestors, it's utterly disgraceful. The fourth elder also heard the sound and showed anger on his face. Then, fearing that Lu Chongqing would worry and overthink, he reassured, "It's nothing, Chongqing." He led Lu Chongqing into the Lu family shrine. Inside the shrine, they saw Lu Miaoyang, whose face was swollen and bruised like a pig's head, his body wrapped in bandages, and a clear bloodstain on his neck. He looked utterly miserable, clutching a spiritual tablet to his chest and crying loudly. The sight was enough to sadden the observer and bring tears to the listener. He was completely unlike the person Lu Chongqing had first met. "Miaoyang, rest assured, such matters will be handled in accordance with the family rules, and we will be fair to everyone. Yes, let's talk this out, stop crying. Everyone is here, what does it look like, making such a fuss?" A few of the Lu family elders were comforting and persuading him by the side. "All right, Lu Miaoyang, Lu Chongqing is here now. I shall administer justice in front of your parents' memorial tablet." At this moment, Lu Yuanding coughed twice, his expression grave and his voice steady as he spoke. "Thank you, family head." Upon hearing these words, Lu Miaoyang stopped crying and thanked Lu Yuanding. Then he looked at Lu Chongqing with eyes filled with malice. To think that he, Lu Miaoyang, had been in the Lu family for so many years and had never been humiliated like this. "Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoyang claims you came to his door intending to kill him, is there truth to this?" At this time, Lu Yuanding also looked at Lu Chongqing and spoke sternly. "Regarding the matter between me and Lu Miaoyang, it is Lu Miaoyang who was in the wrong from the start. He coveted my family's spiritual pets and used his position to oppress my child, and in a fit of frustrated rage, he even attempted to lay a hand on my child, showing the shamelessness of his actions and the maliciousness of his thoughts. Even if he was bitten by my pet beasts, it was his own fault. This time, I returned with the intent to resolve matters peacefully, but he was aggressive. In my anger, I acted against him and taught him a lesson. I did not kill him, which shows I still regarded the kinship within our family. If I really wanted to kill him, he would be dead by now. Moreover, I used my flying sword only because Lu Miaoyang had the intent to kill me first." Lu Chongqing spoke with a solemn face. "Nonsense. You had no intention of reconciling. And even if I was the one to resort to the flying sword first, it was you who struck first." Lu Miaoyang immediately retorted angrily. After speaking, he pointed to the marks on his face and the bloodstain on his neck and wailed, "Uncle Yuanding, Grandfather Lin, Grandfather Guang, look at my face, and here, these were all caused by Lu Chongqing. Dad, Mom, why did you leave Yang'er alone? Woo woo woo." Lu Miaoyang cried out miserably. The other Lu family elders and the fourth elder shook their heads when they saw the two men's conditions. Lu Chongqing spoke of the incident with neither humility nor arrogance. While Lu Miaoyang was throwing a tantrum, being unreasonable, and making a scene, it was apparent who stood higher instantly. "Lu Miaoyang, be quiet. This matter will be judged according to the family rules, your unreasonable ruckus will not be tolerated." Lu Yuanding spoke sternly. "Family head, rather than arguing the complexities of right and wrong, I do not wish to debate further. Although I am not a disciple of the Lu family, having been with the Lu family for more than 7 years, I consider myself a part of it and am willing to abide by the family's rules. Therefore, I ask the family to adjudicate this matter fairly." Lu Chongqing spoke gravely. He did not wish to debate any further. Primarily because Lu Miaoyang's attitude and posture were not worth arguing over. The opponent was clearly intent on being unreasonable and playing the victim. It wasn't like he, too, could start wailing about his years in the Lu family, could he? Very well, if this is the case. I, the family head, shall decree a judgment according to the family rules. Lu Yuanding nodded upon hearing this, but he did not immediately announce his judgment. Instead, he looked at the fourth elder, then at the several elders and patriarchs. Obviously, they were silently deliberating, deciding the verdict of the matter. During this process, Lu Yuanding and some of the Lu family elders seemed to hear something astonishing. Their eyes showed expressions of surprise, amazement, and shock. Regarding the matter between Lu Miaoyang and Lu Changsheng, I, the family head, pronounced the judgment. Family head Lu Yuanding spoke out with an authoritative voice. Lu family disciple Lu Miaoyang, for initiating provocation in Jianghu Valley and fighting with Lu Changsheng, resulting in a dispute, shall be penalized by losing 1 year's salary and be confined for 3 years for self-reflection. Chapter 169, Lu Family Ancestor, the one with great destiny. Reset, Lu Changsheng, for failing to guard his pet beast properly, which bit Lu Miaoyang, a disciple of the Lu family, and for engaging in further strife with him, is fined 300 spirit stones and sent to labor in servitude for 3 years. However, considering that he did not instigate the trouble and that he must continue to manage the family's business and draw talismans, the 3 years of hard labor will be converted to the forfeiture of 3 years' salary. Do you all accept this? Lu Yuanding spoke with an authoritative voice. Family head, I am not satisfied. My parents shed blood for the family, made meritorious contributions, and ultimately sacrificed their lives for the family, yet now you are unfairly siding with Lu Changsheng, favoring an outsider. However, as soon as the sentence was pronounced, Lu Miaoyang immediately shouted out. Lu Miaoyang. Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder in unison coldly shouted. Now that Lu Changsheng was standing right here, Lu Miaoyang had the audacity to yell out such words. Treating Lu Changsheng as an outsider. You should know that Lu Changsheng was not only the son-in-law of the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain but also a high-grade talisman master. I am not satisfied, I cannot accept this. This Lu Changsheng is nothing but a redundant son-in-law of our family. If it had not been for our Lu family taking him in, where would he be today? Now he has beaten me to this state, nearly killed me, and the family actually sides with him, aiding an outsider to bully one of their own. Ancestor, I want to see the ancestor. Wah, if the ancestor knew you were helping an outsider bully your own people. Lu Miaoyang, turning a deaf ear to the scolding, continued to cry out loudly. Lu Miaoyang, Miaoyang. Seeing this situation, several family elders attempted to drag him away. But Lu Miaoyang clung tightly to 2 memorial tablets, making it difficult for the elders to forcibly remove him. Lu Changsheng watched this scene speechless, thinking to himself that the Lu family had quite a temper. Being able to tolerate Lu Miaoyang making such a scene. If someone like that were in his own family, he'd have been slapped away by now. No, I won't go, you are all biased, favoring an outsider and bullying me. Father, mother, why did you leave me all alone? Wah, I want to see the ancestor, let the ancestor judge. Lu Miaoyang continued crying and shouting as he was dragged away. However, just at that moment, suddenly. Scoundrel! An old and resonant voice, like the sound of a great bell, echoed out of nowhere. Immediately after, it was seen that Lu Miaoyang's entire body was sent flying backwards with a crash. The 2 memorial tablets in his hands, however, floated down gently and settled securely amongst the rows of memorial tablets positioned above in the ancestral hall. Ancestor! The ancestor! Greetings to the ancestor! Greetings to the ancestor! Hearing this voice, everyone in the ancestral hall, Lu Yuanding, the fourth elder, and all the present family elders bowed and saluted in unison. The Lu family ancestor. Lu Changsheng, upon hearing this, could not help but feel a sudden shock in his heart. He turned his head to look. and saw an imposing old man, clad in a Jianghu mountain robe, with white hair and a youthful complexion, walking towards him. He quickly bowed in respect. This was his first time seeing the esteemed Lu family ancestor. Even when he married Lu Miaoyun, only the elders of the Lu family came, and he did not see the ancestor. He never thought that such an incident would bring forth the Lu family ancestor himself. "Scoundrel, is the ancestral hall a place for you to cause a ruckus?" The Lu family ancestor scolded Lu Miaoyang, who was to the side, speaking directly. "Ancestor, At this moment, facing the Lu family ancestor, Lu Miaoyang also became scared and dared not to continue his tantrum. After all, the Lu family ancestor was the sky of the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain. He dared to fuss and throw a tantrum, relying on the affection from the Lu family ancestor and the debts owed to his parents. Now that the ancestor had appeared, he did not dare to make a scene anymore. Yuan Long had such an illustrious life, how could he have a worthless child like you? If not for Yuan Long's sake, I would slap you to death, the Lu family ancestor said, expressing his disappointment. Now take this disgraceful fellow out of here. Just as Yuan Ding proposed, let him reflect on his actions quietly at home, think it over well. If he dares to cause trouble again, he will be harshly punished. The Lu family ancestor declared. "Yes, ancestor." Lu Yuanding immediately nodded respectfully. "Yes, ancestor." Two of the Lu family elders immediately stepped forward and took Lu Miaoyang out of the ancestral hall. "You are called Lu Changsheng, correct?" At this point, the Lu family ancestor turned to Lu Changsheng and started speaking. Lu Changsheng greets the ancestor. Lu Changsheng, facing the elder with a head of white hair, unsure of why he was suddenly the focus of attention, hastily bowed and saluted. The Lu family ancestor's face appeared calm, and there was no hint of formidable aura about him. But standing before him gave one an unfathomable impression of depth and solidity. He didn't seem anything like what Yuningrong had described, that the Lu family ancestor had at most 10 years left to live. Moreover, in front of this Lu family ancestor, he involuntarily felt as if a needle were at his back. Feeling as if the elder could see right through him. At this moment, Lu Changsheng was uncertain if the jade pendant that the colorful dress lady had given him would be of any use. His own cultivation level, spirit, and everything about him, might be discerned by the ancestor. Especially since the Lu family ancestor before him was a Foundation Establishment great cultivator. Such terror from a Foundation Establishment ancestor. If he notices something amiss, I wonder if I would have time to call for help. Lu Changsheng thought anxiously in his heart. He dared confront and act against Lu Miaoyang within the Lu family because he had gained a certain level of strength and confidence. Feeling that it was unnecessary to continually concede, he thought it was time to show some firmness. But he had not anticipated that his actions would provoke the appearance of the Lu family ancestor. Facing the ancestor, he couldn't help but feel somewhat panicked. After all, his confidence stemmed from the second-rank talismans and second-rank puppets. But the power of a second-rank talisman was only equivalent to a casual strike from a cultivator at the initial stages of Foundation establishment. Chapter 170, Lu Family Ancestor, the Great Destiny Holder. Reset. A second-rank puppet could never stand a chance against a foundation-building great cultivator. As for activating the jade pendant to call for help from the woman in the colorful skirt, but in the presence of such a foundation-building great cultivator, he didn't know whether there would be enough time. The young man is quite good, since he's a son-in-law of our Lu family, he may treat this place as his own home. A faint smile appeared on the withered face of the Lu family ancestor. His dry palm gently reached out and touched Lu Changsheng's head. This gesture left Lu Changsheng slightly stunned. He didn't quite understand what the Lu family ancestor meant. Trying to calm himself, he pursed his lips and nodded, "Yes, ancestor." The young man has always treated this place as his own home, Lu Chongqing said respectfully. Hee, that's good, the Lu family ancestor chuckled, retracting his somewhat rough hand, and then he left. Seeing off the ancestor. Seeing off the ancestor. Seeing off the ancestor. All those present bowed and respectfully said their farewells. Phew. Watching the Lu family ancestor depart, Lu Chongqing also let out a slight sigh of relief. During these brief moments, a layer of cold sweat had seeped out on his back. What's the situation with the Lu family ancestor, exactly? Did he see through something about me? Lu Chongqing couldn't help wondering in his heart. He really couldn't figure out why the Lu family ancestor would take notice of him. Chongqing, it's all right now. Just then, the fourth elder looked at Lu Chongqing and said with a smile on his face. Then she spoke softly, when the family finds the spirit stone, Grandma will pay for you. It's okay, Grandma, Lu Chongqing, with his emotions in check, gently shook his head. He could feel that the verdict was actually biased in his favor by the family. In his heart, he speculated that it was very likely the fourth elder had informed Lu Yuanding about his promotion to high-grade talisman master. What's owed must be taken, these spirit stones are nothing to Grandma. The fourth elder waved her hand and spoke warmly. Thank you, Grandma. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing didn't insist any further. He understood that it was a kind gesture from her. All right, it's getting late, you've hurried back and been on the move all day, go home and rest early. If you have any issues, just come and talk to Grandma, the fourth elder, taking Lu Chongqing away from the Lu family ancestral hall, said aloud. Yes, Grandma, Lu Chongqing nodded slightly and walked towards his home. His mind was still pondering over the matter of the Lu family ancestor. He wanted to know why the other party looked at him. And whether he had seen something in him. Forget it, at least for now, the Lu family ancestor bears no malice towards me, Lu Chongqing thought secretly. He didn't dwell too much on the matter and quickly made his way home. After all, fretting about it now would only bring more trouble to himself. If a foundation-building great cultivator truly harbored bad intentions towards him, he would really have no way out. He couldn't just curse the Lu family ancestor to death tonight with the Book of Malevolent Curses and Fates, could he? When Lu Chongqing arrived home, he immediately saw his wives and concubines waiting for him in the courtyard. Husband, how did it go? Lu Miaoyun and the other wives approached with eyes full of concern. It's been resolved, there's no more trouble, Lu Chongqing waved his hand and shared the outcome with Lu Miaoyun. The fault wasn't ours to begin with, besides, husband is now a high-grade talisman master, even if it were a matter of clan punishment, the family would consider husband's position. Lu Miaoyun said, holding Lu Changsheng's arm. You've had a hard day, husband, and congratulations on becoming a high-grade talisman master. Yes, congratulations on becoming a high-grade talisman master. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband, on taking another step on the path of cultivation. The other wives also spoke up to congratulate him. Very well, let's have a good celebration tonight. Lu Chongqing also gave a grand wave and said, after all, becoming a top-grade talisman master is indeed something worth celebrating. However, when the wives and concubines heard Lu Changsheng's words, they couldn't help but blush slightly. In a secluded courtyard deep within Jianghu Valley, where spiritual energy converged and birds sung amidst fragrant flowers, the Lu family ancestor was lying back on a recliner, resting with his eyes closed, listening to Lu Yuanding reporting on the Lu family's affairs. Several Lu family elders stood waiting to one side. As for the Chen family, strike back if you have to, otherwise, everyone will think my days are numbered. We need to establish our authority, it can save a lot of trouble, the Lu family ancestor said lightly. Yes, ancestor, Lu Yuanding immediately nodded in response. By the way, tell me more about that Lu Chongqing, the Lu family ancestor spoke as if something had just occurred to him. Everyone was somewhat surprised, not expecting the ancestor to ask about Lu Chongqing. Lu Yuanding immediately began detailing Lu Changsheng's situation, and then asked the fourth elder to add more information. It seems this child is someone with great fortune and destiny. After hearing everything, the Lu family ancestor said, his eyes opening and closing languidly. He had been in a whimsical mood today, went to the Lu family hall because of the noise, and when he saw Lu Changsheng, he found, to his surprise, that he was unable to see through him. This piqued his interest, and he couldn't help but take a few more looks, knowing that the young man had secret chances of fortune by his side. He grew increasingly curious about Lu Changsheng. Now, hearing the words from Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder, he was almost certain that Lu Changsheng was indeed someone with great destiny. Someone with great destiny. The crowd, hearing this, looked at each other in dismay, utterly astonished. They hadn't expected the Lu family ancestor to give such an evaluation of Lu Changsheng. The concept of destiny was extremely profound, but it truly existed in the cultivation world. Some live a life full of disasters and calamities, while others sing their way through life, experiencing one lucky encounter after another. Such people, who experience a continual stream of fortunate encounters, are referred to as individuals with great destiny. Even if such people lack talent, they are favored by destiny and can rise up through fortuitous opportunities. In other words, individuals in the cultivation world who have a name and reputation can all be referred to as someone with great destiny. If this child truly possesses great destiny, he will undoubtedly achieve no small feats in the future. Being able to fully integrate into our Lu family, he could become a strong support for us, the Lu family ancestor said slowly. Sighing, he added, but you all must hasten your efforts, as I won't be able to protect you for many more years. If we can't produce a foundation establishment, then it's time to abandon Jianghu mountain, split the family early, and each fend for themselves, otherwise, ancestor. Ancestor, you are in the prime of life, how can this be? Yes, ancestor. The crowd hastily spoke out. But in their hearts, they couldn't help but be shrouded with a layer of melancholy. Being here, they were well aware of the Lu family ancestor's condition. Although his injuries had healed, his lifespan was already running short. That night. Afterward, husband, today you asked me, if my husband were to leave, what would Yuner choose? Having married my husband, if you truly wish to leave the Lu family, Yuner will naturally follow you, Lu Miaoyun said, snuggling gently against Lu Changsheng's chest, her eyes full of tenderness, her voice breathy. I was just asking casually, with no intentions of leaving, where could I go if I were to leave? You don't need to worry about that, Lu Changsheng said in a soothing tone, knowing he had unsettled her earlier with his question about leaving the Lu family. In truth, he hadn't expected that by merely mentioning it, Lu Miaoyun would decisively decide to leave the Lu family with him. If it were so easy to sway someone, the Lu family's action of marrying a woman to him would be in vain, merely adding an unnecessary bond. After all, for a cultivation family like the Lu family, the concept of sacrificing for the family's interests and benefits was deeply instilled from a young age, and such a mindset isn't easily changed. Yes, Lu Miaoyun softly acknowledged with a yes, then let out a delicate cry, Husband, your concubine can't go on, but before she could finish speaking, her voice became choppy, no longer forming coherent words. Chapter 171, 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. _1 Have you guys heard? Lu Miaoyang has been grounded. What happened? Give us the details. It's about him and Lu Changsheng. I heard that Lu Changsheng beat Lu Miaoyang up, and then Lu Miaoyang ran off to make a scene at the ancestral hall. Eventually even the ancestors were provoked. Shoo, even the ancestors got involved. Who would have thought that brother-in-law Changsheng, who usually seems so amiable, would actually beat up Miaoyang? Yeah, I thought he would calm things down and let bygones be bygones. Even a nice guy has his limits, after all, who could tolerate Lu Miaoyang's character? Exactly, I guess Lu Miaoyang must have pushed him too far. Serves him right, it's so satisfying. Speaking of which, Lu Chongsheng must have been punished by the family too, right? How was he dealt with? I'm not too sure about that, but I heard he was fined quite a few spirit stones. TSK, he really got caught in the crossfire. The next day, the affair between Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyang also became the talk of many Lu family disciples within Qingzhou Mountain. After all, the incident had caused quite a stir in the past few days, attracting a lot of attention. Now that the family had made its judgment, the outcome naturally became a topic of gossip and intrigue for everyone to relish. Meanwhile, Qingzhou Valley. Inside a manor. Family head, please take care. Lu Chongsheng saw Lu Yuanding out the door and exhaled slightly. Lu Yuanding's visit was primarily to comfort him, worrying that he might feel wronged and hold a grudge over yesterday's judgment. Although the fourth elder had paid all the spirit stone fines on behalf of Lu Chongsheng, he was indeed fined. Secondly, the visit was about discussing benefits and compensation. Lu Yuanding was aware of his promotion to a high-grade talisman master through the fourth elder. Since the fourth elder had mentioned it, there was no need for a confirmation assessment as before. So Lu Yuanding came directly to discuss the new benefits with Lu Chongsheng. The original 10 spirit stones per month had been increased to 30 spirit stones. The 20 caddies of jade bamboo spirit rice, increased to 50 caddies. Additionally, the monthly talisman making task escalated from being rewarded 10 spirit stones to 30. Any excess completed talismans would still be bought by the Lu family at the original price. However, for the excess talismans, the Lu family switched from rewarding spirit stones to granting family contribution points. Family contribution points could be exchanged for spirit stones. What a coincidence, to run into him like this. Just then, on the bustling street, a delicate-looking girl in a purple dress caught sight of Lu Chongsheng, paused for a moment, and then her lips curved up in a smile. She pretended to stroll casually while following closely behind Lu Chongsheng. After trailing him for a while, the girl saw Lu Chongsheng walk into a spiritual talisman shop. She looked up at the sign above the shop. Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop. Then, with a smile, she walked inside. A moment later, the girl emerged from the shop, still smiling. Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop's owner. Is he a disciple of the Qingzhou Lu family? How could a mere disciple from a foundation establishment family have so many talismans and even a talisman treasure on him? With a frown, the girl inwardly mused. This man must have a big secret, a great opportunity. Otherwise, a disciple from a mere foundation establishment family couldn't possibly have a talisman treasure and so many talismans. Chapter 172, 7 Luminaries' Great Freedom Sword Scripture. No wonder he was unmoved when I invited him to explore the ancient cave, the girl murmured in her heart. As long as a little more time passes, the Lockhart goo will recover some of its vitality and can be used on someone again. This man has a talisman treasure by his side, so many talismans, and he even took 2 of my foundation establishment spirit objects. He has reaped the wealth of the Ko family's 5 fiends and possesses secrets of fortune. He is indeed worthy of a spot for my Lockhart goo. Since that's the case, he'll stay in the marketplace for a while. Once the Lockhart goo has recovered, it'll make him my first target. Once bitten by the Lockhart goo, he will uncontrollably develop feelings of love for me. By then, all these riches and secrets of fortune will be in my pocket. The girl thought to herself, a smile appearing on her face. Her already delicate features became more enchanting and ethereal at that moment, emanating a mystifying and elusive aura. At this time, Lu Chongsheng was unaware that he had become the target of someone's attention. After returning to the spiritual talisman shop and inquiring about the shop situation with the shopkeeper Zhang Shan in the past few days, he went to the third floor. He checked the storage room and the talisman room to see if he had left any traces while making puppets and drawing second-rank talismans. After all, he planned to go home to spend time with his wives and children in a short period, and leave the shop to Lu Miaoge to manage. Although he was usually careful, he still had to confirm everything to avoid any oversight. After confirming that there were no problems, Lu Chongqing felt relieved. He then took out his tools for talisman making and began drawing talismans. 1 month later, inside the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Chongqing was drawing talismans. At that moment, a system notification sounded. Congratulations to the host for reaching 50 offspring, you have been awarded 1 designated lottery draw, the reward for 50 children arrived as expected. Lu Chongqing wasn't surprised. Designated lottery draw? But the mention of a designated lottery draw made Lu Chongqing pause slightly, somewhat surprised. The next moment, however, he understood what the designated lottery draw meant. The lottery will had sections for cultivation techniques, skills, pet beasts, elixir medicines, magical treasures, and others, making up 7 categories. In previous draws, the rewards had been random from any of these categories. But this designated lottery draw allowed one to select a specific category for the lottery. Designated lottery, a draw from a specific category? Lu Changsheng's eyebrows twitched. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. The reward has been placed in the system space, and the host can check it at any time. 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. The system finally came through for once. Lu Chongqing, upon seeing the award pattern, immediately felt a surge of excitement. With the words Sword Scripture, Lu Chongqing knew it was the type of qi refinement cultivation technique he wanted. Because qi refinement cultivation techniques are a general term and come in many varieties. There are foundational techniques like the returning origin technique, which is neutral and mundane. Techniques that specialize in vitality like those of the wood element. Techniques focused on alchemy and artifact refining associated with the wood and fire elements. And even poison or demonic techniques fall under the category of qi refinement techniques. But this technique had the words sword scripture, and Lu Chongqing knew it was a sword Dao cultivation technique. According to what Lu Chongqing knew, sword cultivation techniques typically emphasized on combat and aggression. Lu Chongqing didn't mind and immediately looked towards the system space. This technique was similar to the 100 Refinements treasure body art. It had not only the methods of cultivation through absorption. In each layer, there were also matching spells and features of the techniques. For instance, the first level during energy refinement stage came with 3 matching spells, 7 Luminaries Sword Light, 7 Luminaries Sword Shield, and 7 Luminaries Sword Escape. Attack, defense, pursuit, and escape were all covered. Moreover, the 7 Luminaries Sword Qi cultivated through the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture also had the characteristic of eliminating elixir toxicity. Most cultivators usually consume elixir medicines to assist in their cultivation. But elixir medicines, more or less, always carry some elixir toxicity. Not to mention being harmful to the body. Take the yellow dragon elixir, for example. Consuming it excessively could cause the body to develop resistance to elixir medicines. As a result, consuming elixir medicines would become ineffective or barely effective. This was also the reason why, even though Lu Chongqing had spirit stones to purchase elixir medicines for cultivation support, he did not overuse them and knew the right limit. It was because of the issue of elixir toxicity. But now, with the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture, he could use elixir medicines to increase his cultivation level without any reservations. completely fearless of elixir toxicity. However, eliminating elixir toxicity wasn't so simple. It would require time and strenuous effort to refine and expel the toxicity. And when refining the toxicity, the body had to endure the torment of sword qi cutting deep. But this pain is nothing compared to the unfettered use of elixir medicines, free of side effects. It's hardly worth mentioning. Lu Changsheng's eyes sparkled. If he could consume elixir medicines without inhibition, his cultivation speed would double. Originally, he thought it would take 6 to 7 years to break through to the 8th level energy refinement. But now, able to use elixir medicines without inhibition, the time required for cultivation would be greatly reduced. Moreover, each layer of this technique came with matching spells and features of the technique, such as the 7 luminaries heart lamp on the 2nd level. The 3rd level 7 luminary stars sword, 7 luminaries sword formation. It can be described as extremely powerful. What made Lu Changsheng even more excited and satisfied was that the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture could also be split up into multiple techniques. It could be divided into the Sun Brilliant Sword Technique, Lunar Brilliant Sword Technique, Venus Brilliant Sword Technique, Jupiter Wood Brilliant Sword Technique, Mars Fire Brilliant Sword Technique, Saturn Earth Brilliant Sword Technique, Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Life and Death Sword Chapter, and 5 Brilliances Stars Annihilation Sword Canon. The reason is simple: orthodox level techniques are incredibly difficult. Not only are they hard to cultivate, but they are also challenging to comprehend. Only those with exceptional talent can successfully cultivate the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture. Therefore, to make it possible for most disciples to cultivate, the 7 luminaries sword sect lowered the difficulty by dividing it into multiple techniques, allowing the disciples to choose according to their spiritual root attributes and the features of the techniques. Orthodox level techniques are difficult to comprehend because it's very hard to understand and cultivate them. If it weren't for the system's direct inheritance, it would be nearly impossible for me to comprehend and master this technique on my own. In the future, when my children start cultivating, even if I teach them this technique, they would find it very difficult to grasp and cultivate. But the split techniques such as the Sun Brilliant Sword Technique, Lunar Brilliant Sword Technique, Venus Brilliant Sword Technique, are of the exquisite level, and relatively speaking, are much easier to get started with. If the children are exceptionally gifted, they can start cultivating with the Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Life and Death Sword Chapter. Lu Changsheng exhaled deeply. This was one of the aspects that made him extremely excited and satisfied with the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture. It not only resolved the issue of his cultivation techniques, but it also addressed the future cultivation technique needs for his children. Although it would be a while before his children started cultivating, at least now he didn't have to worry about it. Chapter 174, So this is how you attract romantic luck, huh? _1 Inside the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Changsheng sat cross-legged, with his 5 hearts pointing to the heavens and eyes closed, his expression solemn. The spiritual lake within his chi ocean core bubbled and churned, slowly flowing through his meridians and into his limbs and bones. This caused the originally pure white spiritual energy in the lake to gradually take on several additional hues. Moreover, there were vague silhouettes of 7 tiny swords above the lake, flickering in and out of existence. Phew! Lu Changsheng opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of turbid air. Though the returning origin technique is rubbish, it cannot be said to be entirely without merits. Its spiritual power is neutral and balanced, without any properties, allowing for a smooth transition to other cultivation techniques. If I were practicing a different cultivation technique, to transform all of my spiritual power into 7 luminary sword chi would be much more difficult and might even lead to a regression in cultivation level. Lu Changsheng introspectively observed the spiritual power in his chi ocean core and silently thought. Just now, he had attempted to switch to practicing the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture. He wanted to transform the spiritual power of his entire body from the returning origin technique into that of the seven luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. He found the process to be very smooth. Although there was a significant loss of spiritual power, the problem was not major. In around 3 to 4 months, all of my spiritual energy will be transformed into 7 luminaries' spiritual power. This 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture truly deserves to be an orthodox level cultivation technique. The spiritual power cultivated from it is not only 3 to 4 times more profound than my original spiritual power but also significantly sharper and more domineering. Once all my spiritual power is transformed into 7 luminaries' spiritual power, I fear I may be comparable to someone of the 8th level energy refinement, or even 9th level cultivation realm. This must be what they call a robust foundation. When the time comes for me to break through to foundation establishment, I shall overcome the magic barrier with ease. Lu Chongsheng looked at the spiritual energy in the lake and couldn't help but feel excited. Originally, his reason for wanting a good cultivation technique was to lay a solid foundation for himself, so that he could go further in the future. Now, with this orthodox level cultivation technique, his foundation would be incredibly solid. 7th level energy refinement comparable to 9th level energy refinement, does that not mean I will be able to challenge those above my rank in the future? No, that's not right. Whenever I've encountered enemies, their cultivation levels have been higher than mine, and when facing an enemy, doesn't everyone rely on tactics rather than just cultivation level? Lu Chongsheng thought to himself and then shook his head. He suddenly felt that his circumstances were not very suited to such a battle-focused cultivation technique. On one hand, he had always been kind to others and disliked violence. On the other hand, in a fight, he usually relied on external aids, rather than his own cultivation realm. In such cases, cultivating a technique adept in nurturing life or escaping danger would suit him better. However, now that he had received the cultivation technique and started practicing it, Lu Chongsheng wouldn't dwell on those distractions any longer. Besides, Lu Chongsheng felt that cultivation techniques for nurturing life or escaping weren't necessarily better or more suited to him. As his cultivation level improved, conflicts and battles on the path of cultivation were inevitable. In the Qi refinement realm, thanks to the system's lucky draws, he had no problem fighting against higher-ranked opponents using external items. However, as his cultivation realm increased, talismans, puppets, treasures, and other external aids would become less and less helpful. They would no longer enable one to fight against opponents of a higher rank as they do now. By then, one's own cultivation combat power would become particularly important. Noticing that it had also grown dark outside, Lu Chongsheng stood up and left the spiritual talisman shop to head home. At this moment, at a tavern diagonally opposite the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, a beautiful girl dressed in a purple gown sat by the window. With her delicate arms supporting her cheeks, she looked out the window with idle boredom. When the girl saw Lu Chongsheng walking out of the spiritual talisman shop, her eyes suddenly brightened. "I've paid a significant price to allow the Lockhart goo to recover its energy quickly, you better not disappoint me," the girl murmured to herself, gazing at Lu Chongsheng's figure. She then raised her palm. And on it, the flesh on the girl's delicate palm shifted and split open, revealing a blood-colored goo insect, less than an inch long and lustrous, wriggling out. "Little guy, it's all up to you now," said the girl to the Lockhart goo. The insect seemed to understand her words, nodding its tiny antennae in response. Seeing this, the girl also smiled, closed her fist gently, and stepped out of the inn. After watching in secret for some time, she had learned Lu Chongsheng's daily routine and movements. He basically moved between the spiritual talisman shop and his home. Escape the influence of the Lockhart goo. The girl, seeing the spells and flying sword coming at her, did not dare hesitate further. She formed a protective aura around her body and took out several talismans to activate them, directly withstanding Lu Changsheng's onslaught. Then, with a groan, she turned into a shadow and made a rapid retreat. At that moment, she couldn't afford to think too much, nor did she care about the Lockhart goo that she had obtained with great difficulty, now falling into the hands of Lu Changsheng. All she could think about was taking advantage of the moment, before the Lockhart Gus effects completely overtook her mind and thoughts, to quickly leave this place. To get far, far away from where Lu Changsheng was. Chapter 177, Chapter 177, 104. Based on my guess, this should be a type of Lockhart goo insect. That purple-dressed woman just now was bitten back by this goo, which caused her to develop feelings for me, bringing me a wave of romantic luck. Generally speaking, if the goo insect dies, its effects will disappear as well. Therefore, this goo cannot be killed. Not only can it not be killed, but it must be well cared for, so that there is a chance for revenge in the future. Lu Changsheng looked at the listless blood-colored goo in his hand and silently thought. The purple-dressed woman attacked him out of the blue, laying the goo on him in an attempt to harm him clandestinely. If it hadn't been for the peach blossom goo by his side, he might have fallen for it, becoming her devoted lackey. Such a great vengeance could not easily be let go of. It must be avenged fiercely. If he were to kill the goo right now, causing the effect on her to dissipate, that would be tantamount to letting her off the hook. So, he decided to raise the goo well. As long as he had this goo in hand, he would have an additional means of control when he encountered her in the future. Speaking of which, can I refine this goo to serve me? Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he suddenly thought. From the recent situation, he could clearly feel that this goo was not ordinary. It was not a regular goo. If he could refine it, he might be able to figure out its effects and use it for himself. Such matters cannot be tried lightly. I will look into information on goo insects later to see if I can find anything about this particular one. After all, goo insects are not something to be trifled with. They are ferocious and difficult to refine. I was able to refine the peach blossom goo only because I drew it from the system. This goo insect is not simple. Now, if I attempt to refine and tame it while it has a master, one misstep and there's a good chance of trouble, or even backlash. Lu Changsheng immediately dismissed the idea of refining this goo. As of now, he did not even know what type of goo this was or what the situation entailed. If he were to rashly refine it, there could very well be unforeseen accidents. After all, having refined the peach blossom goo in the past let him know that refining a goo insect was not easy. If it hadn't been for the fact that the peach blossom goo was drawn from the system, offering no resistance and actively cooperating with him, he wouldn't have been able to refine it at all. This goo insect, though not as remarkable as the peach blossom goo, was clearly extraordinary. Refinement would certainly not be simple. Immediately, Lu Changsheng took out a jade box from his storage bag. He placed the listless blood-colored goo inside. And he took out a sealing talisman to stick on the top, to prevent the goo from escaping. Then he found a magic artifact shop. He spent 30 spirit stones to buy a goo container specially for holding goo insects. He also spent 50 spirit stones to purchase a spiritual pet bag. Storage bags could not contain living things. Even with the goo container, the blood-colored goo could only be placed in the spiritual pet bag, not in the storage bag. And the only spiritual pet bag he had was the one given by the Lu family for the iron feather eagle. So he bought one for himself. In the future, it would be useful for the 9 netherhound as well. Moreover, creatures like demon beasts and goo insects should preferably not be kept together if they are of different species. Otherwise, there might be an accident. Lu Changsheng also did not trust having the blood-colored goo together with the iron feather eagle. After completing all these tasks, Lu Chongsheng headed back home. Meanwhile, a purple-dressed young woman left the Nine Dragons market in a rush. What on earth is going on? How could he possibly have such a treasure, a heavenly-grade goo insect like the Lockhart goo? At this moment, Meng Xiaochan still could not believe what had just transpired. It felt almost like a dream. If it weren't for the fact that the Lockhart goo was not in her hand and the lingering affection in her heart, she would truly feel as if she were dreaming. She couldn't believe that the Lockhart goo, which she obtained after so much painstaking effort, was gone just like that. Not only was the Lockhart goo gone, but she also suffered a backlash from the goo insect, putting herself in the pitfall and suffering losses. Damn it! I must kill him and take back the Lockhart goo. Otherwise, even if I flee far away and never see him again, the Lockhart goo will continue to affect me. Meng Xiaochan clenched her teeth, a dark hatred flashing in her eyes. However, as this thought emerged, her heart suddenly trembled with pain. The handsome face of Lu Chongsheng appeared in her mind, making her feel affectionate. She wondered how she could have such thoughts, how she could harm him. Hew. Such a terrifying Lockhart goo, such a domineering Lockhart goo. Meng Xiaochan covered her aching chest, breathing lightly. After a moment, she formed a spiritual art with her hands, touched her forehead, and calmed her restless mental spirit, her eyes filled with determination. No, I can't think of him anymore, otherwise the Lockhart goo will keep influencing me subtly, and its effects will become stronger and stronger. I must break through to Foundation establishment as soon as possible, only then can I hope to break free from the Lockhart Gus influence and restrictions. The Purple Shadow secret realm is about to open, and if I can make some gains within, get someone to refine a Foundation establishment elixir for me, then I have a 70% chance of achieving Foundation establishment successfully. Meng Xiaochan dared not continue to dwell on it. She took out a leaf-shaped flying magic artifact from her storage bag, turned into a ray of light, and quickly left. Lu Chongsheng returned home as usual. He didn't give much thought to the matter with the purple-dressed young woman. Mainly because the whole affair was too bewildering for him. He was completely clueless and could not make heads or tails of it. After chatting with his wives and maids and finishing dinner, he fell asleep slowly with the company of his 3 wives. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.